And hold on.
Look at our TV freak out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Help, Nathan, help. We're freaking out.
Did you see Shadow that was last night doing that?
Yeah, when it was like
It's like
our
creepy.
It was doing that when I came out of the door.
Well, it's because it knew.
Oh, thank you.
Give this to him now. You're stuck.
I think they already have it.
Well, yeah, because they came to that one.
Right. So
I
we got
didn't
plenty.
do it.
What?
I didn't do it. He handed it to me.
I was
Michael.
looking at them on the computer.
Yeah, it's send it to
Okay,
you.
so no one's guilty.
Nope.
Got that.
Oh my God.
You may not actually look at the paper.
I love paper.
I'll probably look at it just to make sure it's the same, but other than that,
I love
I
paper.
know. Sure.
Did you get through all your policies?
Mhm.
Good boy.
I mean, I read them and looked at
There's nothing you
questions
can
and stuff.
do.
but I don't really know the process that well, so
That's okay, you'll win.
when I've done them before at the hospital, it was just me. I fixed the policies and I signed them and nobody else looked at them. And I don't think they even read them. There's like, you made these?
You
They're
know?
good, okay.
Again, it is dropping me now.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've been connected all day.
I
Yeah,
was
I know.
connected up until
A second ago,
a second ago.
when the, oh,
No, that's because ASU private. No, I don't have the ASU guest.
oh, you don't even have the,
Reboot your
Perfect.
computer, maybe? Maybe.
Guess it's the only option I have.
Sometimes when my computer gets a little stubborn, that's what I have to do.
No,
Start.
Every time every time I say a word.
Well, we'll wait. At least we have till Nathan figures this out.
no,
My phone's connected to it. We're recording. All right, let's call this meeting to order with a flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. So we have all board members present this evening with Linda online. First, are there any amendments or changes that are needed for the agenda this evening?
None that I know of.
All right, hearing none, we will go ahead and approve the agenda as published. Superintendent report, Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do you have to
First
do
on the report is a report on our bond GMP update from Chris and Nancy
Workbooks.
Giggy. They are our new project management team for the bond project. We just finished with a bond oversight committee meeting. And so I'm anxious for the board to hear the message from Chris and Nancy. the board should have hard copies as well as electronic copies of the packet. We have two GMPs to be considering for approval tonight. One for our main power upgrade and the other one for our panel room. So Chris and Nancy, I think it's all yours.
They may have to unmute.
I think that's what he's doing right now.
Yeah, we can have that.
Chris and Nancy, can you hear us?
Sean, I don't see him in here.
You don't see him in there? We don't have a working link. Hang on. Okay, they're just got the link. Give them a couple seconds here. That'd be something.
Do you want to borrow my computer?
Well, I can use, if you don't mind,
I
I can
can-
use my phone.
Use my phone too. I mean,
You got that, I'll use my phone.
let's see if I can get it to go. Well, let it- I just,
They're connected.
that's wishful thinking. See if it works.
They're still not there, Nathan?
Nope. Nope. Okay, there they are. They should be able to unmute.
All right. Chris and Nancy, thank you for joining us. You're on.
Hi, yeah, Chris is getting set up. I don't think he got the link directly, so he's getting it set up. I just sent it over to him. Okay, I have a cast of thousands in front of me. Where would you like me to begin?
Well, we just finished with our BOC meeting and you gave a very in-depth report during that meeting. I think if you can kind of give a truncated a report on just updating the board where we're at in terms of your recommendations to move forward with the GMPs, I think that'd be great. And the board has hard copies in front of them.
Great. Well, first of all, for those of you who don't know us, I'm Nancy Giggy and my partner Chris Giggy are the owners of Integrity Management Solutions. And we have just been contracted by the district to act as your owner's representative, which means that we will be, our job is to communicate to you and with you and for you, but to manage the construction projects, manage the budget, push the schedule, and communicate to you and to the BOC and to the community overall what's going on with the construction projects. My job as a business manager is I work with the business manager and the superintendent and make sure that everything on the legal side is going the way it's supposed to, tracking contracts, that kind of thing. And then Chris works directly with the architects and the construction team and the consultants to make sure that everything stays on schedule. And we hopefully bring everything in within budget. That's our plan. I am going to, we just reviewed 4 packages that you had approved to move forward with. 2 of them, we have the GMPs down to where we have a pretty good understanding, and we need a few little refinements. 2 of them, we need to get a little more information. We want to look at some value engineering to bring them within budget. And so we are going to continue to work through those, and we'll present those to you as we get that information refined. Okay, Chris is having an issue getting set up here, so I'm going to see if I can get that working. They're ready for the budget update. So he is, yep, on the packages that are ready and where we are with the budget.
All right. Do we need to, do
Yeah.
you have it on the screen?
Sean, do you want to pull up the GMP sheet that we provided with the packet?
They have hard copies in front of them right now. All you just need to do is reference which handout you're referring to, and they can look at it.
Great.
Okay, so for the budget update sheet, that's the one we prepared. And so Sean, you'd like us to go over something similar to what we just did for the BOC?
Yeah, in kind of a truncated fashion, so the board knows what they're looking at tonight for approval.
Okay,
So yes, we have the bond project budget summary in
Right.
front of us right now, and we're all
Yep.
looking at it. So go ahead and take us through it.
real good. The bond project budget summary, that has your income and expenses. I think folks will probably remember there was a version that you received at the beginning of January. We've just basically taken some validated numbers with some updated estimates and wrap that up. So that it's got the income number. You can see about 5.1 million at the top, and then for projected budgeted expenses down below. There's also under the expenses a column that is committed cost, if you can see that. And those are actual contract values. So the budget is what we have to spend, and then within that we'll have committed costs as we write those contracts. There's a detail sheet that goes with this, and I think Nancy may have mentioned, but we'll be having the update for that. Every month, you'll be seeing this as we go through the project, and we'll have additional details in our monthly report that'll explain that, where the new contracts are and how we're looking relative to the budget. We just shared with the BOC that right now, with the contractor coming back with their construction estimates, their GMPs, if you will, for the 4 work packages, we're about $400,000 over budget. And so we need to do some trimming there. And that really transitions to the next piece. Do you have the GMP summary sheet in the packages there? This is the one that was prepared by CB Construction.
Is this the one that says draft?
That's right. Yeah, and we just, and I Brian's there, so we just went through that. So I think everybody, are you able to find that sheet?
Yeah, we're looking at this one right now. There you go.
There we go.
Okay, we got it all in front of us now.
Got it? Very good. So what that sheet summarizes for you from CB Construction, and this is just a day old, they had some updated bid numbers. I understand that you folks had asked them for some GMPs and they provided something back in September, but they were incomplete, or you had some questions at that time. And then that triggered a delay. And as a result of that, they had to go back and rebid all that. So what we've been working on the last couple of weeks is getting those numbers down to firm numbers. So what you see on that sheet is 4 work packages. And I understand that this has come from the direction of this board, is electrical upgrades with a panel room that really should have been just combined with the electrical upgrades. It's part of the same work. You have to do the panel room to do the electrical upgrades. And then there's also another work package for HVAC upgrades for the whole school facilities. And then a 4th one for the VOC building. Does everybody see that okay?
Yep.
Great. So what this sheet does, this is intended to provide the cost. The GMP is a guaranteed maximum price, but it's their cost for doing these projects. This is the contract values, if you will, with the breakdown into different elements of it: concrete, framing, roofing, HVAC, all the things that go into it. And if you look at the bottom of the second page, they've got some markups for their fee and insurance, and those are according to their contract that they have with you, with a summary that is on the bottom. So those are the summary values. And then those, and I believe you have 2 amendments before you tonight, those numbers there actually end up in those amendments as the amended contract amount to add this new work. So the packages you have before you tonight are for the electrical upgrade and for the panel room.
So Chris, when the board considers approving these GMPs, like for instance, I'm looking at the electrical upgrade, bottom of the second page, says subtotal 745K and some change, and then AIA GMP total 722K and some change.
Mm-hmm.
Which figure is the board approving tonight?
Yeah, what you're approving is the one that is in the amendment. But I do want to give a caveat, and we just explained this to the BOC. We only just received these amendments with the detailed breakdowns just about an hour before the meeting. So we haven't had time to fully vet them, but we have scanned through them, and we had been looking at these GMP details, and there were some last minute cuts, if you will, cutting some things out. An example of this is the panel room. Back when it had this hallway addition that was a part of it, and there was going to be some work in the kitchen. There was a sewer line change that was a part of that. That had been left in there for some reason. And so we looked at that and reviewed it and said that needs to come out. So there were some cuts, some value engineering that came down with that. So what we're going to be doing, and we mentioned this to Sean already, is we'll have by tomorrow morning, we'll have gone through these with a fine-tooth comb, and there's just right now possibly some minor language changes to clarify some things in the amendments. We have some questions about the way they're calculating their markups for fee, but if anything, the numbers are going to come down slightly, and it's just going to be some of the language to tighten up these amendments to protect the district with some of those details. So
the board, Chris, will be approving tonight the GMPs pending some slight changes. Is that correct?
That's our recommendation.
Can I ask a question really quick, Chris?
Of course.
This is Ristine, sorry.
Hey, Ristine.
I definitely have one document in front of me, but I don't have 2. I have the main power upgrade document in front of me to review, but I don't have a second one. Am I just not knowledgeable enough to understand that this is everything combined together, or? No,
it's not. It is 2 separate ones. You're right, Ristine. I think it's probably just because, again, they had
AIA 133.
Did you find it there? It's a
got
lot of papers they sent over just shortly before the meeting, so I'm not surprised if something may have been.
There should be.
There are 2 separate documents.
Yeah, I don't have it either.
One for the main power upgrade and then one for the panel room. I think we forgot to duplicate that for them. I did send it to you.
Yeah,
guys
it was in your email.
electronically. It was in your email.
I saw two in the email.
Yeah,
Okay, so
we did.
hold on, there's a second one down here. I just wanted
Yeah,
to.
They got it just electronically. We didn't get it in the hard copy packet.
Yeah, we received those. Well, I can tell you the difference in the amendment format between the two is identical, and it should be. It's the same form. And the real difference there is the name of the project, of course, the value, and that goes back to this GMP summary sheet with some modifications, and then some specific details. The part that we're asking them to modify is add some details describing which design documents, plans, and specs that these are based on, because there's been a lot of discussions, especially in the last few weeks. So we're just refining that so that everybody's on the same page.
Okay, so a few more questions, sorry.
Please.
On the breakdown that you give us in the draft for the electrical upgrade, I'm not quite sure, is that the 722,000 approximately?
Yeah, and again, and that's where things have been moving quickly, Christine.
Right.
The GMP summary sheet that you're referring to with all four of them on there and the number at the bottom,
Mhm.
that was as of numbers that they had put together at the beginning of this week. And then when we had our OAC, our owner architect contractor meeting yesterday, there was a number of items that were discussed that we wanted them to refine those numbers. And
So
that
sorry.
will be in the final amendment. Those are the numbers. Like I say, those numbers are trending down. Things are being trimmed. It's not big cuts, unfortunately, but it's just trimming that.
Well, I mean, what's in the agreement that you sent us for the main power is 749. So it's about 27,000, though a small number, it all adds up. So
Yeah.
I just want to be clear when
Go
we
ahead.
approve something that we can anticipate that number changing as well, I guess. Because when we talked earlier, we had kind of talked about there'd be some provisions and things like that, but I don't want the board to go into something and approving something where the cost difference is, let's see, that's about 27. And then then the other one actually is an increase on the breakout pricing. So I guess maybe it is a wash, but I just.
Yeah, Chris, we're getting confused here because on the draft breakout, we see a subtotal 745 and some change. We see an AI GMP total of 722 and some change. And then on the A133 document for the main power, we see a 749 and some change. That causes a little bit of consternation when we have three different figures we're looking at.
Right. Well, I think some of the confusion is coming from the fact that all of us just received this, right? I mean, and we weren't the ones who sent it over to the board. The CB Construction sent it to all of us, Sean and ourselves.
Right.
We just had a chance to do a quick scan of it.
Right. Yeah.
So we know at this point that the scope of work that we need to get approved is this electrical upgrades. And we do understand that this is the approximate value. We still need to look at these numbers and validate and make sure that they have captured the changes that we've been discussing recently.
So it goes back to Ristine's question, and I know that she wants to be thorough and very succinct on this, is that what the board is approving tonight is simply a scope of work with the understanding that there'll be some changes in the final numbers as we trim and do some VE work, some value engineering work on this. Is that correct?
That's right. And those would be, in these packages, they would be minor changes.
Yes.
So I'm gonna, per our conversation just in the BOC meeting, I'm just gonna, when we get to the point where we do talk about voting and things like that, I want to make sure that everybody's aware that at least from where I sit, the price that's in these is not to be exceeded based on provisions and things like that. So
that's exactly right.
Okay.
That's exactly the way to look at it, Ristine. That's correct. If anything, we trim this, and then you're basically saying, yeah, we're going to go ahead and agree with this scope of work at this cost or lower.
With this cost or lower.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying and answering that, Chris. I appreciate it.
You bet. Now, if I could just take one more minute, I don't want to monopolize the board's time. I know you have a lot of other topics, but real quickly, we did want to explain to the board as well, the scheme that we have here. The electrical is a priority because the equipment is such a long lead item. So the electrical upgrade, the panel room, those go together, and we want to get that authorized quickly. The two other work packages, the HVAC upgrade is the next one that we're prioritizing. And there are some substantial value engineering ideas that are being discussed so that we can trim that budget back. As I mentioned at the beginning, we need to figure out how to cut a couple $100,000 out of this budget and yet still get all this work done. So that will be our priority. We hope that in a couple of weeks, certainly well before the next board meeting, that's resolved and we have that done. And then the final piece is going to be the VOC building. And so we've, at that point, when we get to that point, we will have established very firm numbers for these electrical upgrades, the panel rooms, the HVAC upgrades, and then we'll know what money we have left to spend on the VOC building. And we've already been working on some value engineering ideas. There are some substantial things that are like the HVAC system and the mechanical mezzanine, parts of it that aren't educational space. The goal there is we need to try to bring this back within budget without sacrificing the educational space if possible. And so that one's going to be a heavier lift, and we've got a number of different things that we're pushing on with the contractor and with the architect. And it may even be some redesign that's needed, but it's going to be well worth it because you really wouldn't be able to authorize the VOC building to go ahead because we are substantially over budget with that.
Hey, any questions for either Nancy or Chris Giggy? So you'll see that in the action items for approval tonight on the panel room and also the main power upgrade. And
What is this sheet? Tell me.
It's a Gantt chart.
that is a Gantt chart. And what that does is shows you the schedule of events for that particular project. So if you look at the timing.
Well, if I could read it, it would be great. Even with my glasses, I
I
can't
know,
even
I know.
read it.
It's tough to read in that current form.
Looks like your printer had a little spaz problem.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. You should be able to pull it up on your computer that I sent the file on the email and actually expand it so you can actually see it a little
Okay.
bit better.
Well,
One-
I just put that
If
on.
I could just add one more thing about that Gantt chart, because that is a good question. You should be able to read it. That really is the detail sheet for all the work that the contractor will be scheduling once you authorize it. Typically, that's printed on a giant, large, 3 foot by 2 foot drawing size sheet of paper. And they should have that taped to their wall in their construction trailer once that starts. So once we get to that level where we've got all of this work packages created, I'm sure we can get a copy of that on a large sheet and we can have it someplace that everybody can look at those details. Because one of the things
here
we'll
on
be
this
doing is tracking that as we go.
Yeah, right here on this wall.
Yep.
Yep, we can put it in the library, Chris.
Yeah, that's something it's nice. It's a great thing for people to be able to see and to make available to the community.
Okay, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Gigi. We appreciate your time and effort, and we appreciate the progress that has been being made on the project.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yes. The next part of the superintendent report is called Lining for Student Success. This is a major project that encompasses requirements from Oregon Department of Education that has connections to millions of dollars in school financing for us. The state has taken 6 different grant projects that were separate and required separate reports and separate, processes, and they try to combine it all into one. And so because of how massive this project is, the state also provided some funding for small schools for some support. So Tim France and Bart Rothenberger and I are the kind of the in-house team on this Aligning for Student Success project. But our consultant who's been assigned to us using state grant dollars is Aaron Miller from LBL ESD. So I'm going to kind of turn this over to Aaron to kind of walk us through. There's nothing tonight that the board needs to approve, but you do need to be aware of what's going on because there will be some approvals coming up. And there's an important March 31st deadline that we have to meet in terms of submission of some key components in regards to school improvement to make sure that we are eligible for those millions of dollars in grants. We don't want to miss that due date. It's a very, very important due date. So thank you, Aaron, for your help on this. I'm not sure what we'd do without you. So Aaron, I'm going to turn it over to you at this point.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, excellent. So here in just a sec, I'm going to start sharing my screen. I've got, I think, 4 documents to share with you, and then we'll have time for questions and answers. Again, I'm Aaron Miller. I'm an integration coach with Lynn Benton Lincoln ESD, and I am helping with the integrated guidance for Alsea School District and several other small districts in your region. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint here, and Mr. Gallagher, if you could tell me that we're on and it is up and running, that would be fabulous.
It is up and running.
Okay. So we are working through ODE's Aligning for Student Success process. This is an integrated application for several different grants. This integration has to do with trying to streamline different services and different programs that ODE has available for districts. I'm going to show you here in just a second. There are 6 programs that are aligned with this guidance. And ODE has been working on this to try and simplify things. I'm not sure that they've been completely successful with making it simplified. But it is all in one package with these 6 programs. And the whole idea is that they have some common goals. They were looking for how they could combine them along and combine not just the programs, but combine the budgeting process, the planning process, the community engagement process, and accountability and reporting as well. That does come out of some requests from districts and superintendents to simplify the process because there is so much work done in preparing grants and then reporting on them, and it does take away from the daily working with kids. So this is a work in progress, and this is the new guidance that we have to work with. The 6 programs that they have put together are high school success. You may also know that as Measure 98, the student investment account, which brings in a whole lot of dollars to each district. Your continuous improvement planning, which is developing your long-range plan for your district. That is not a funding source. There's no money available in that program, but the plan that comes out of this process really is your district's continuous improvement plan. CTE, career and technical education, those programs, Perkins dollars are part of this. So there is funding in that section. Everyday Matters has to do with attendance, and there are no funds available through that, but it is part of the reporting and planning process. And then early indicator and intervention systems are systems in place to have teachers discuss how students are performing, discuss how they are providing instruction, and then melding those 2 things and constant review of data to improve their work with students and really have an impact on early reading skills and any other types of interventions that students might need. These are put together with overarching common goals, and those common goals with a well-rounded education, advancing equity, which is meeting the needs of all students, engaging the community in the process, and strengthening the systems and capacity of the district. Those are the common goals that this plan has to fit within, the plan that the district develops. And so we have been going through this process throughout the fall with some different community engagement activities, mostly surveys, looking at your data on student achievement and that community engagement piece, talking with students, families, staff, and other partners, thinking in terms of the data and how your students are accessing programs, how they're performing in those programs, how they are performing overall with their academics, and melding those two pieces together with the data and what your community would like to see develops a needs assessment. And so that needs assessment is really looking at what is needed in the district to move forward. What are those data points with your students where there could be room for improvement? What are those data points with students that are going well that you want to build upon? What does your community want to see in terms of spending these dollars? And that's really what helps drive developing the outcomes that your district wants to see. And then once those outcomes are developed, then it's developing strategies and actions that will help achieve those outcomes. I lost the train of thought there. This is really developing a 4-year plan. But when we get to the portion where we talk about the budget, it's really a 2-year budget plan with specific details. We'll talk more about the budget here in just a moment. But the other reality of this is that this engagement tends to sound to communities like there's a lot of new money coming in. But these dollars really started entering education systems a couple of years ago when the SIA initially passed. And community engagement was done at that time to determine what communities would like to see from their education systems. So there's a lot of money that comes with these programs, but these dollars are already being spent in your budget. SIA dollars are already supporting ALC. High School Success Measure 98 dollars, CTE dollars, those are already supporting programs that are in place. So this may sound like new money, and there may be some opportunities for your district and others to have a little bit of extra funds or alter what they're doing as they spend them. But it really is money that's already in your district coffers. It's already been vetted with your community a couple of years ago, and this process is meant to happen every couple of years. Just to reiterate what's important for your districts, see if there's any changes, and make sure that there's open communication between community, parents, staff, and the district to make sure we're meeting kids' needs as best we can from all perspectives. The application requirements, you heard Mr. Gallagher share that the deadline to turn this in is March 31st. On March 1st, ODE will send out the application. And there are some very specific things that are required from the application and some very specific things that aren't requirements. So there are about 40 questions on 5 sections of different topics. And I'm going to share all of those questions with you here in a minute. I believe you have them with a hard copy in your packet. So answering those 40 questions that are all between 250 to 500 word limits is the actual application. So your district team is busy working on those. I'm going to share the answers to 2 of those questions, the biggest questions about how we went through the process and what the plan is. I have those to share with you this evening, but those are really the main part of what is being developed to meet your district and student needs through that application. In addition to the answers to the questions, There are 5 pieces of evidence that show that your district has gone through community engagement that are required. We have those, and we'll be sharing all of these things in detail prior to the March board meeting, because at the March board meeting, you're going to have to see this entire packet of information. This is going to be the complete application, and it is what you as a board have to approve in order for the application to be turned in. If there's something in there that you're not happy with, you don't like, we have got to get that figured out before March 31st so that these dollars come into your district. In addition to the question answers and the evidence of community engagement, you've got to have a board adopted equity lens that is utilized in how you ensure that all of your students are benefiting from this program. All of your students who may have specific needs that aren't being met are being addressed. That equity lens is how you can review different items to ensure that all students are being considered. There is a budget template that has narrative with it that will show how the budget is tied to the outcomes, strategies, and activities that your district has put together based on that needs assessment that came from community engagement and review of student data. The application has to be posted on your website, and it'll be a good idea for us to get this on the website. Our goal is to get it on the website prior to your next meeting so that your patrons can look at the plan and comment and provide more input on that as you discuss whether you're going to approve that plan or not. That public comment at an open board meeting is a requirement. So next month, that should be an agenda item for you at your board meeting. And then once all that is complete, and assuming that everything looks good and you pass the application forward, you approve that, then it'll be turned into ODE. The board meeting minutes will be turned into ODE, showing that it was officially approved by you, and officially there was time for community input and engagement at that meeting. And that all has to be done by March 31st. So we are sharing with you tonight in hopes that any questions you have, we can answer between now and your next meeting. And we will continue to put out as much as we can as we put it together for the final application. So that you can review that as easily and quickly as possible before the next meeting. In our planning team, as Mr. Gallagher shared, you've got your administrative team, and myself have been working on this. We've also been in contact with Dale Moon. He is the CTE regional coordinator at Lynn Benton Community College and has a lot of data and knowledge around CTE. And then we're sharing this plan with you. This is a draft plan. It's still in process. We don't have all of the questions answered, but we will be meeting with teacher community leaders. I believe it's next week to go over this plan with them and receive further input on their thoughts on the final actions that we are proposing to put in place. So I'm getting close to a point where I'm going to breathe and stop and see if there's any questions. Part of the community engagement that we've done is we have sent out survey responses to all these groups, and you can see the numbers for how many have been returned. The parent response was really low, so we've put that back out again, and we'll look at the data that comes in and see if it alters anything. We have worked hard to get feedback from focal students and focal student parent groups, and focal students are typically underserved in schools. Race and ethnicity can play into that, learning English as a second language, being part of special education programs, being economically disadvantaged, All of those things have to do with groups that are typically underserved or lower performing. And this guidance specifically calls out that we need to work to specifically meet those students' needs. We held empathy interviews with a cross-section of your high school students, and those empathy interviews were asking questions about what they, very general, open-ended questions about what they like, what they don't like, what's the best part of being a student at ALC, what's the worst part, checking in on support, and anything that they would like to see kept, it's working well for them, or anything that they would like to see changed that would help them or others in school be more effective. We were part of a regional CTE conference at LBCC, and we continue to work with Dale Moon as the regional coordinator at LBCC. I think we've got, well, let's go ahead and stop there. I'm going to take a little break. Any questions up to this point? And Sean, if you could direct traffic and let me know, or if there are no questions, I'll continue and move on.
Yep, speed limit's 55.
Am I going too fast?
Any questions from the board up to this point?
Nope.
Yeah, I have a few. So you said the application opens on March 1st, or is that true?
Yes, officially. We have the application questions. We know what they are, and we are working on the ones that we can answer at this point. But the official document to turn in, the application to turn in, has a special program for that, and ODE will not be sending that to districts until March 1st.
Okay, so our board meeting is obviously March 9th. Do you have an anticipated amount of time that's going to take you to put that together so that there's sufficient time for the community and the board to review?
That is what we are working hard to do. I'm hoping that part of what we have tonight shares a good deal about the program direction and the plan direction. Again, this is also meant to get input. So we do want to hear back from people if there is any. So, you know, if we get that input and feedback to us in the next couple of weeks, then that will also give us a couple of weeks to incorporate that into the plan if there is a need for change.
Okay. And then your teacher and community leadership group, what all does that encompass? So what areas does that encompass?
I believe we have representatives that will be attending from each school level, elementary, middle, and high school. And then there are community and parent leaders. I'm not sure of the specifics on that. District admin are putting that team together, but as we talked, it was a cross-reference from all levels to make sure we had good input from different perspectives.
So this one goes to you, Mr. Gallagher.
Yes,
Learn
ma'am.
at Home is not referenced in that at all?
No,
Does
learn at
this plan
home.
not
No,
impact them?
it'll learn
Okay.
at home is included. Yes,
So, okay, so they're part of the teacher community group then?
yes.
Okay, and then I haven't personally seen anything go out to the community about this. What's the timeline for sending out for parent community feedback on this?
We've already
or on
sent
the-
out surveys and we've only gotten
Yes.
2 back from parents. We want to resend out again. And so we can get more response from people.
But I'm sorry, I'm talking about that leadership group. If you want parent and community members in that,
Oh,
has
oh,
that communication gone out?
yeah, Tim France is in charge of that. Tim, are you on? Can you comment on that?
All right, hopefully my voice has come through now.
Yep, we hear
yes.
you.
Yeah, so there might have been some miscommunication because I thought was this a staff input. So we got our elementary, middle school, high school, and Learn at Home staff representatives for next week. The surveys were resent out, I believe, last week or the week before was resent.
Out to parents?
To the parent group, yes. The parent group was resent the survey soliciting input.
So it sounds like we need to reach out to parents to be part of that leadership team then.
They could
Okay.
either join at that point, or we could run a similar meeting with just the community members at another date, if that works. you tell me what you need from me and I can help tackle that as well.
Okay, well, I'm tentatively scheduling another meeting for Monday, and we can talk about those specifics at that point. So I
Perfect.
guess I want to assure you, Madam Chair, that we're right in the middle of trying to do all this and reach out to people. Because that is a very important component of this project, is that we do engage the community.
Thank you.
Do we get
Oh.
to ask a question or is it just questions for the board?
It's just questions from the board right now, but we'd love to hear something in the patron comment area, if there's something. And then actually, Erin, do you have, I guess, how should the community get a hold of you in the meantime before then? Should we reach out to the leadership within this school district? So that
Yeah.
would be
Yes,
Art and Tim, and then
Art and
you
Tim and me.
as a
Mhm,
whole
mhm.
should be included on that
You bet,
communication.
you bet.
yeah, that makes perfect sense. And then if there's anything that they would need from me, then they would be checking in with me.
We'll also loop in Sarah Cash, and so she could help us get the word out to the community.
Okay, I'm gonna zip through some more and we'll have some more opportunity for comment or questions as we go through. So in addition to the community engagement, we did review student achievement data over the last 5 years, including looking at focal student groups. And these metrics here are really the ones that your plan is going to be evaluated on once it's put in place. So the next couple of years, ODE is really going to be working with your district closely to look at third grade reading scores, your students on track numbers for ninth graders, your numbers for graduation rates at the regular 4-year timeline, those numbers as they change for 5-year completers, and attendance. Those are the big ones that the state's going to be looking at throughout this accountability process. And we also looked at performance and participation in CTE courses in ALC, reviewing current programs and positions that were funded by SIA and HSS that were already in your budget, and then looking at healthy teen survey data. Because social emotional learning and taking care of kids' mental needs are definitely a part of this, big part of this program. So the strengths, 92% of all your high school staff and teachers, kids feel like they treat them with respect. Your 5-year completer rates are trending up for all students and subgroups, so that's a good thing. They may not be all graduating at that 4-year point, but they are staying and working and making sure that they finish. That's a big positive. Your English language arts scores are trending up for all grade levels at the elementary school. And third grade reading is one of those benchmarks that is a huge indicator for the overall success of your programs with this. The empathy interviews that we conducted with your high school students, they were all very positive toward the school climate and how students interact with teachers and staff. So that's a big positive. And then the survey results that we got from staff and students were also consistent with those empathy interviews. And I think that's a really important point because that shows consistency in what was being shared in terms of needs and what's working well. And one of the things that I thought was good, it was shared several times, was that students feel there's a positive school climate, and that when they need help, if they ask for it, they're going to get it.
You know, and I just want to.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Aaron, I want to pause on that and just thank the community and thank the school district staff and everybody involved, because that's a culmination of everybody's effort. You know, one characteristic that I really pull away from ALC and share outside of our community is that we have so many staff members that wrap their arms around these kids, and the kids are responding to that. That's why they're saying these things. So that's something to be very proud of.
And it's a critical element. If you have things on the other end, your kids aren't going to be performing well. When they feel like they're a part of things and they're supported, they're going to be more successful. So definitely agree. Kudos to your staff and your community. We also looked at needs. The percentage of ninth grade students on track to graduate has declined the last 3 years. So looking at systems that are in place and looking at those numbers and who those kids are and what they specifically need to get themselves on track, there's some fruit to be picked to help improve those numbers. But that's one of the needs that came out of our assessment. Something that came out of student surveys and definitely the empathy interviews was that there is need to formalize the process for discussing grad requirements and progress towards graduation. There are some systems in place, but there needs to be a little deeper focus with more individualized information and attention given to each student, especially being a small district, being able to focus on their individual needs, what they're behind in, how we can help them. Those are things that came out as a need from students. 80.3% of students feel there's an adult at school that they can talk to when they're upset or having a problem. And I put that in as a need. 80%, you know, it's a B. But in terms of how critical it is for students to have that support, have their mental health needs, to feel like there's somebody there at school in their court. That's a number that I think would be good to strive for a higher percentage. Students also identified the need for more CTE courses, hands-on learning, things that make it real for them as they move from school to career and work. Those were identified through survey and empathy interviews as important for kids. So that's a little bit of where the needs came through. Getting into the plan. These are the key strategies that will help achieve intended outcomes. And the intended outcomes for this are to maintain the current programs and staffing supported by student investment account and high school success dollars. This includes, so these are things that are already being paid for from those dollars, and the district would like to continue to utilize those as strategies to help kids graduate and be successful in school. There are 2 teachers that are funded, a CTE teacher, there's counseling services, educational assistance, supplies and materials. There's support for advanced courses and college-going courses, dual credit courses. And then there's also money in there for professional development. So we're not just putting in a new initiative, but you're working with your staff so that they understand it and can implement it effectively. And then increasing supports for career and technical education, counseling, and on-track graduation programs. So there's really 3 key concepts within that one. But those are the overarching outcomes and strategies that your district would like to utilize these dollars on.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, really quick before you switch to the
No,
next page.
please do.
You say this includes 2 teachers, but they're not, but and a CTE teacher. So you identify the CTE component and importance there, but there's no identification on the 2 teachers that this includes to maintain the current programs.
It's a
2 elementary teachers.
So that's 2 elementary teachers in that one.
Yes.
And I believe that those were put in to impact lowering
Reduced
class size.
Yep.
Okay. I asked that question just for the specificity of it so that we know I do appreciate placeholders, but when we look at a plan for achievement, I think being more specific is better. So thank you for the clarification that they're elementary.
But I do
And
want.
thank you for the questions. Those are the types of questions we need to make sure that you understand where the money's going so that you can make an informed decision when it's time to approve or not.
I do want to indicate, though, that that's how the 2 teachers were, the funding for the 2 teachers we used this last year. as we're facing some serious budget cuts for next year, it is a placeholder because we're not quite sure where those dollars are best fit. So that is still undetermined for next year.
I'll hold my question there. Thank you.
Okay, so this gets a little more detail, not a lot. But the actions and key investments to meet those outcomes are the 2 teachers that were funded, 4.5 EAs, and those are under the heading of decreasing class size, which is one of the acceptable uses of those funds. College and career readiness is a part of SIA and high school success. And key investments there include grad and career readiness coaching, continuing with advanced courses through LB and advanced placement courses, which help students gain dual credits, earning high school credits at the same time that they're getting a head start on their college work. And then continuing on with CTE programs, funding that CTE teacher, and then further development of programs of study. A program of study in CTE means that you've got at least 3 courses that help meet a program need. I believe your program of study will be forestry to start with, but looking at other programs of study to put in place and how you start building those classes so that they can build up to be a full program of study is something else that district would like to put funds into, continue to build opportunities for kids. Another element of this is as the budgeting template is filled out, there's a place for tiered budgeting. And tiered budgeting means that you've got a backup plan. You've got plan B and C. And so those backup plans, if they are a part of ALC's application, will be available for you to look at. They will be shared with ODE. And if there is need to implement one of those secondary approaches, then the legwork will already be done because it's placed into the plan. And I think the biggest place where this could come into play is if you're looking to hire someone. And I'm just going to use districts in general because this is a thing that many districts have put in place. They're going to hire a graduation coach that's going to help put things in place for helping kids graduate, make sure they've got enough credits, make sure they're thinking about their future as they plan which classes they're taking. It's a great idea and it's worked really well in many districts, but given the employment situation right now, you may not be able to find somebody to fill that position. So if that's the case, putting a secondary plan for how you're going to help with graduation rate improvement, how you're going to help provide more information to kids so that they can plan for their graduation, those secondary plans would be put into the tiered section. There's many areas where you may not have to worry about having a tiered section. You know you're going to spend money and be able to, but hiring these days is very tricky at best. And so having backup plans will help your district be able to move forward if and when something is not able to be implemented. I don't have any of those to share with you at this moment. One of the last things I'm going to talk to you about are longitudinal performance growth targets. And you as a board definitely want to be aware of what these are. I'm going to skip ahead to what they are and get all of this on the board. So we talked about those metrics: third grade reading, the on track to graduate for ninth graders, 4-year completers and 5-year completers, and then impacting attendance rates. All of those things are data points that ODE has for your district. And what your district's job is going to be is to look at where those performance rates are currently, and then develop growth targets for how much growth we want to see each student have in those areas. In addition to just the basic growth target, there will be a lofty growth target that is, a larger goal, maybe not as attainable, but it's something that you're striving for in terms of increasing your reading percentages at third grade, say. And then the third element that's a part of growth targets are closing the gap numbers. So we know that we have groups of students, those focal group students that we talked about before. We know we have those groups of students that are typically behind and have more growth to gain to catch up and be on grade level. So the district will be developing a plan for how they catch kids up and close the gap between our already performing students and those that are struggling. These are growth targets that will have draft numbers that get turned into the application, but they are not part of the application. If we don't turn in those draft numbers, we still have a complete application. But what will happen is that once this application gets turned in at the end of March, in April, Department of Ed will start contacting each and every district and working with them to develop those longitudinal performance growth targets. They'll start developing the goals for students and setting numbers for your schools and your district to try and attain with the dollars that you're spending that are hopefully addressing the needs of your kids and having an impact on these common metrics. Other local metrics can be used, but quite frankly, these five data points have been used for several years as the major indicators for progress with our students. So very likely there's not going to be very many districts that have their own local metrics, but there may be something that is important to put in there. We haven't gotten to that point of discussion. I don't believe there's going to be different targets for ALSI. Okay, so
let me
yeah,
pause
go
you right
ahead.
there, Aaron. I know that we talked about the state testing earlier on this year and how this district has really encouraged students to opt out of that testing. If you look at that first bullet point there, it says third grade reading proficiency rates measured by ELA. That comes from state tests. That's an example of why we need to have our students participate in the state tests. So we have data to use. And this data is turned into the state for, like Aaron said, it's not required for this application, but I can certainly see it in the future that it will be. And if we don't have accurate data because the students aren't testing, then we got a problem. So Anna DeBoard is here with us tonight. I'm not going to point you, I'm not going to put you on the spot, Anna. And she's our district testing coordinator this year, and she's doing a bang up job for us. And she's going to be sending out a packet of information to the parents here very shortly. And in that packet of information is data in terms of why families would want their child to participate in state testing. And it gives a whole bunch of bullet points in regards to that. State testing is just one way of many that we can measure how students are doing, how our school is doing, and come up with great school improvement plans, but we got to start with the data. So I just wanted to make sure that we emphasize that, because all those 5 bullet points there are traditional. The state has been using those for a lot of years, and there's a lot of research behind each of those bullet points in terms of student success. And third grade reading proficiency rates has a lot to do with graduation rates, believe it or not. How a student is doing at that third grade reading level really is a precursor in terms of, does that student need extra services and help between grade 3 and grade 12? Or are they on track? How are they doing? And it really interpolates into resources that we can garner on behalf of our students and help and supports that we can provide for them. So please help get the message out. We want students to participate in the state assessments this year. And again, Anna's going to be sending that information out very shortly. And if there's any questions from parents and concerns, they can certainly email Anna for answers, or myself, my office. We'd be more than happy to help out with that and kind of just move forward. So thank you, Aaron, for allowing me to interrupt you.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yeah, that's a critical point. Knowing how your kids are performing enables you to understand what they need and how to provide that help. So I would wholeheartedly agree with you on that. Okay, so the last thing I have besides an opportunity for more questions, at least on this PowerPoint piece, is just sharing that in March, the application window is open. So all throughout March, it's possible to turn that in. It does have to have board approval, so yours will not be eligible until after that second Thursday in March. But we can turn it in anytime between then and the 31st. And it has to be in the 31st. That's the only way you don't get your money, is if you don't turn it in. If there's something not right with the application, something that we need to work on, ODE in this process will review that with us and help work through any details that need to be revised, but they will not do that if the application isn't turned in. So I can't share how important it is for us to have this approved in March. So if there are any big ticket questions and stuff, the time is between now and then to take care of that.
So.
And then, yep, go
Aaron,
ahead.
You don't mind me interrupting again. I think Christine asked a really good question earlier in terms of, okay, we won't get the application until March 1st. Our board meeting is March 9th. The board likes to see stuff ahead of time so they can digest it. We don't know how massive this is. We can only predict that it's going to be massive. And we may have to set a special board meeting later on in the month to just review this. I don't know until we see the actual application.
I would just say, even getting pieces out by completion so people can see them and engage with that and have questions and get that feedback would be really helpful. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if you can break it down that way. But if there's multiple sections, I don't know why we couldn't have it broken down and displayed that way. If we have to set a special board meeting then too.
Yeah, that's a good idea. How many questions were on that application again, Aaron?
There's about 40.
40, and they're requiring responses about 250 to 500 words each, right?
Yes, they are.
So they are in depth.
Yes, so I think there's a way that we can, I don't want to answer for you, but I think there's a way that we could, as we put together draft answers and answers for those, getting them put up on the website or having some way that they could be shared. And then comment would still be possible at that last board meeting.
Okay, continue, Aaron. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so any other questions regarding that information?
So Aaron, I just have a quick question. You don't need to back up to the slide, but on your additional data slide, there's a multitude of things that are measured. I think it is great to put I think this is more feedback than a question. I apologize. I think it's great to find that information, but if we don't maintain collecting the data and updating the data, one single point a year does not very much good. So if we can't measure it throughout the year on how the kids are doing to repair tracks, I think that's something to be considered in this from that's really to you, Mr. Gallagher, not to anybody else.
No, point well taken.
And then I'm actually just really curious. You talked about our empathy scores and that they were pretty high. Is there a correlation between empathy scores and how kids are actually doing in school?
No, it's not a statistical kind of interview process. They're open-ended questions that are just meant to understand how kids are feeling about school, what they think is working well for them and what is not. So there's no statistical correlations. It's just getting the raw data of how kids are feeling about what's working for them and successful at school, how well they're supported, what's not working for them, how they're not supported, and then what they would keep and change. And we also asked a specific question about CTE programs and electives. But it's really just open-ended questions meant to start dialogue and see if there are common elements between the kids, which there were some, but there's no statistical data that comes out of it.
I think it's a good question. I'm gonna try and research that.
I just think it's interesting. We're asking if they're happy, but we're not really judging whether they're successful with that happiness. So I think would be curious to see that correlation. So thank you for the data. I do appreciate that.
Welcome. Other questions along those lines? Okay, so I am going to share another screen with you. I'm going to share. Can you see that?
Yes.
LCIG application question number 1.
Oh, can you make it a little larger?
Oops, that's probably too large. Sorry. That better?
Yep, that'll work.
Okay. So what's in yellow is the actual application question. Offering a description of the comprehensive needs assessment process you engaged in and the high-level results of that needs assessment. Include a description of the data sources you used and how that data informed equity-based decision-making, including strategic planning and resource allocation. So I'm going to scroll through this a little bit. I'm not going to read everything. Board members, you have this in your packet, but this is sharing what process your team, myself, have been going through this last fall and up to this point to develop the outcome strategies and actions that drive the budget for these programs. So I'm just going to hit the highlights. We did go through this process of community engagement and reviewing data. We did look at focal student groups at each and every step. The high level results of what came out of this with aligning for Alcide School District student success. These are the overarching outcomes. Ensure success for all students. Increase graduation supports for all high school students with particular attention to 9th graders and seniors. Increase CTE opportunities and provide effective social emotional learning opportunities that meet mental health needs of all students. So those are the overall outcomes that came out of this process for what the district would like to focus on. The strategies in place that will help meet those outcomes are to maintain the current programs and staffing supported through SIA and Measure 98 dollars, and then increase supports for CTE counseling and on-track graduation programs. And then the actions are those pieces that we talked about earlier that you're actually spending money on. You're spending the grant dollars that are available to try and have an impact on putting those strategies into place and meeting as many of those outcomes in as strong a fashion as possible. So that is, and then the data sources that were used, we talked about those in one of the slides, the information that we picked up and utilized. And then the next portion is how the equity-based decision-making was used. Being very inclusive, and then, understanding that we didn't get the number of responses that we would like to see from parents, and going back to get that. I think that's another part of the process that I think is important to note. We realized we didn't have all the data we needed, and we're going to go back and get more of that to make sure that we have been inclusive with all parents, giving them all the opportunity to respond. So I wanted to give you that as an overview of what question 1 was, because question 1 is one of the big overarching pieces of the application. The second question that I'm going to share with you is question 2. Question 2, that is really a summary of the plan. It's an overall sharing of the outcomes that your district expects to see, which we talked about in one of those slides. It then talks about the strategies that are in place to help meet those outcomes, and then the actions that are there that will be the dollar amounts that are spent to impact those strategies and help your district reach their outcomes, the desired outcomes. So that's really, and this one I'm not sure is in your packet, but it will be provided to you ASAP. And then the third thing that I had in your packet, and I'm not going to share that on screen, but the third thing you had in your packet was all the overall questions. All 40 of the questions are there listed. You can also find them. Anybody that's online and didn't receive one of those packets, they are on the Oregon Department of Ed website under that Aligning for Student Success button and tab. So if you get that full application, you can go in there, and section 4 is a review of the questions that have to be answered and the requirements for what gets turned in by each district. So I've tried to talk fast because there's a lot of information there. I hope that I wasn't too fast and just, zipping right through it so you couldn't understand. But that is what we have for you at this point. We will be coming back to you in March for full approval. We will be sharing things with you as we go, so that you have the ability to review that and be ready to make that decision. And from the sounds of it, we're also going to be working to have that information shared with public as soon as it's ready, so that they would be able to comment and ask questions, provide input if they need to at the next meeting. Anything I'm missing, gentlemen, or any other questions?
Thank you, Aaron.
Very
Yeah,
welcome.
thanks,
Thank
Aaron.
you.
Yeah, we appreciate your help, and we'll be keeping everybody apprised of this intense project as it continues to progress. So appreciate your time. And Madam Chair, that is my superintendent report.
Thank you. On to district recognition. It says Learn at Home Oregon, but I don't think that employs Learn at Home Oregon.
Well, Learn at Home Oregon elected to honor Shirley Cates because Shirley just retired, and she meant a lot to not only the brick and mortar, but to Learn at Home Oregon also. And so I have a certificate for her. I noticed she's not here tonight, so we'll make sure we get that in the mail. I'll write her a nice little letter, and we really appreciate the years she was with us. And we'll also be honoring all of our staff that are moving on at our normal end of the year barbecue, and we'll be inviting Shirley to join us at that time also. So thank you, Shirley.
Yes, thank you. All right. Anything for kids?
I did not. Well, wait,
students?
yes, Heather. Heather, you have
All
something.
right, here I am.
Yes,
Yes, yep.
I almost forgot
Hi,
about you.
everyone. Long time no see.
Yes.
Nice to see all of you tonight. So I'm going to share screen. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Are you able to see? I can't see what I can't see if you're able to see it. It's interesting. I don't know what's happening. Are you able to see the screen with the slideshow on it that says Valor?
Yeah, if you push slideshow, it'll increase it on the screen so we can actually see the slide.
All right, there we go.
There.
Thank
Perfect.
you. Thank you. Teamwork. So last month, our school focused on the character trait of valor, which was brought to us by our 3rd grade class. And valor focuses on bravery, strength of mind, and courage, which was perfect because we are embarking on a big adventure into new platforms in Learn at Home Oregon, which is taking a concerted effort by teachers, staff, everybody, parents, children. And so we are courageously going into this new path, and it's going wonderfully. That courage that everybody is showing is coming across, and we're able to we have a few classrooms already transitioned into their new classroom environment, and they're enjoying that. But anyhow, it took a lot of courage and a lot of bravery. So I want to highlight students that their teachers chose and share that with everybody. So let's see really quickly. In kindergarten, we have Rowan Russell, and the other kindergarten class is Ryder Albers. In 1st grade, Oscar Aldridge. In our other 1st grade, Madrid Dianza. For 2nd grade, we have Jennison Williams and Bentley Murr. For 3rd grade, we have Elliot Crow. For 4th grade, the entire class. And I want to mention that it was really wonderful. They presented, the entire class presented this, and it was lovely to hear them speaking. In 5th grade, we have Maxon Young. And in our foundations class, we have the entire classroom showed great valor and courage. In 6th grade, we have Tasha Van Nuecker. I'm hopeful that I said that correctly. And 7th grade, and I know 8th grade is the same, the entire class. So I want to shout out to not only our students, but our staff, and just everybody who is supporting our transition and all of the courage that it takes, and it's working out. All of that courage is being exemplified daily, minute by minute, and I'm very proud to see how it's all playing out for us at Learn at Home. So thank you.
Thank you, Heather. I also want to remind the board, if they would like to see a Learn at Home classroom, to just contact Heather, and she'll get you hooked up, and she'll kind of show you what's going on. And I gotta tell you, it's a lot of fun. It really is. So I would encourage you to take a look at what's going on with Learn at Home, because it's some pretty neat stuff. So thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Excuse me. Next up, financials. Lorraine.
That mic on there, Lorraine?
Yes.
Might want to reposition. There you go.
My computer's down, so if you have any questions, hopefully I can answer them.
I'm sure you have it all up here in your file folders.
Yeah.
And I don't have a printed agenda, so if I'm going out of the order, I'm just gonna go with what I have here.
Just go with what you
Okay,
have.
so the memo. We redid the memo a little bit, and it shows you your estimated ending fund balance and how much was unappropriated.
So would
amount
this
that.
be the financial packet?
Yes.
Okay.
With that, I said this is projected with expenditure appropriations estimated based on average for remaining months. And you'll see that in the financial packet. Items still to consider still is your maintenance of effort, the state school fund variable and May reconciliation for past years, and loss or gain of enrollment. And also at this time, I wanted to share about the 9.9 billion biennium proposal with the Oregon governor's budget for additional funds being released for the state school fund next year, for the next 2 years, it's biennium. And this has normally been a 49-59 split. So that's kind of what we'll be basing our budget for state school funding on, which I'll show you in a moment. It also just says we're gaining at a 3.37 interest rate in the LGIP account. It also shows you that we have decreased 43 students in our enrollment from last month, 13 in building and 30 learn at home from last month. So the next page in that financial section is just some estimates. So on the right-hand side, it gave you the 23-24 and 24-25 at a 49-51 split. One was based on the 9.9 billion state school funding estimate. If they happen to go up to the 10.3, that's also what that next column over is for. These are always estimates on the side. On the left-hand side's history. So you can see what the history has shown you of what they actually provided at a 49-51 split. Going down, you can see the ratio that this school district rate funding ratio across the way. You can see 1.7. This is all directed by the state ODE, and so it's a 1.7, 1.8, 1.9. It kind of goes up, and the higher that gets, the better off we are. Something to consider is district extended ADMW. You can see in the past, in 1819, we were at a 465 ADMW. Then we reached 959. These are actuals. And then 21-22 is at 11640. We are on the last of our years for the 11640. That being said, this is where you can see that next year, our estimated drop will be about a 615 ADMW. And then we will probably, that will be our high year, because this year, 22-23 is the 615. We will use that probably as the high year next year for budgeting. And then we'll be off that and have to go down again if the ADMW does not pick up. So that's why we estimated it at 595. It shows you that also this district teaching experience ratio rate, it's a ratio, and it says your district teaching average is how much lower than the state district teaching average. And so you could actually, you can see across that it was a 1.1, 0.80, 6.31. The 6.31 is kind of something that we're looking into, but that could affect if it decreases to like a 4 or a 3 or 2, it actually helps increase the money you get because of just how it works. The philosophy behind that, if you want to know, that is the more expensive more years of teaching a teacher has, the more expensive they expect you to pay, the more money they say you should have. That's the kind of, but it's averaged. It's based on what average from the state's average teaching experience.
I'm going to add that this comes from lack of state reporting.
And so,
I do not believe that's the accurate figure.
Yeah, so it's too consistent. And I really looked at it, and it's reportable in January, January to ODE. And I did notice some discrepancies, but we'll see where it comes in. So
we did make this year's report, by the way.
Yeah, definitely. As you can also see, we have a general purpose, which, okay, so adjusted for current projections. So in December, they also ask you what you project to end this year at and what you estimate next year to be at. So this middle column right here that says adjusted for current year projections 22-23, you can come down here and you can see that I am projecting at the very bottom our state school fund at 1096. That's actually what we have on our state school fund form as of 11/23/2022's district estimates. They changed that in May and so forth. So it could change slightly, but hopefully not too much, because we are based on the last high year and that won't change. So also with this, the transportation grant has stuff to do with this. And with that being said, we have gone back to research our transportation grant. I don't know if you've been informed of that yet. We were on a 90-10 with the fluctuation in increased students. That actually dropped our ratio down to 80% for the last 2 years. So we were gaining at a 10. We've gone back to some of those, we've gone back to a Willamette and actually asked for that extra 10%. And we're going to go back and ask for the extra 10% on those others. So we're getting things cleaned up here. So any questions? Oh, at the very bottom of that shows you your loss of the 4.4 million.
Okay, so it doesn't tell us that, thank you for that, because that doesn't tell us we're over budget or
No.
out of money by that 4.4 billion
Correct.
or 4.4 million, sorry, that's a wrong number. But that's the loss we can expect to accrue next year.
Yes, because of the loss in ADM,
Okay, yeah.
even with a $9.9 billion budget at the state level. So
And
to
this, sorry, I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
and this could change based on the district, they could fluctuate based on the district teacher experience factor.
Yeah, I tried to change that just to see what it would do. And it was actually changing it a little bit. It's a factor and it's a small factor, but
Okay.
the lower it goes, because you have more experienced teachers, the more it could give you money.
Okay.
So yeah, I was wanting to show that $4.4 million loss. And you can see that even if they went up to 10.3, it's only about a $200,000 change at the state, I mean, to us, at the LC school district. So with that being said, with that number in mind, we move over to the revenues, and it was asked last month to kind of show actuals per month. So that's kind of why it looks a little more small, but you can see the actuals of revenue, July, February, July, August, September, October, and how much we are receiving per month. You can see in different sources as well. And also you realize I went ahead and upped the state school funding value that we were planning on receiving, because we will, unless there's this May reconciliation comes in different, which I don't think it should hit us too much, but we will be expecting that money this year. But it's next year where we'll see the drop. And so it's this year we need to save to help for next year. The expenditures are also done that same way as per month expenditures, and then a year to date and a projected through. Wanted to show the importance of what we have been doing to save. And you can see that our total estimated in the blue column in the expenditure side under 2223, down at the bottom, it's highlighted in red, 10,000,076, compared to actuals of last year's was 11.9 million. That's a good indicator of how much we have tried to save in just what we really expect to have this year and what happened last year and what our savings that we've already done so far.
I have a question on the actuals for last year.
Yes.
Were we over budget?
No, budget on the very end says 12 million. We were
Okay,
at 11.9.
Okay, thank you.
So I was looking up at the page just above that, which is the general fund statement revenue budget versus actual. And it states that our ending fund balance is going to be 993.
Okay, so yes, that is taking the 12 million in estimated revenues, and I've estimated some in here. I have input some more money from the transportation people and back payment on one of them. There's another, I didn't put the other back payment on the other one because they haven't confirmed that they're going to do it yet. Haven't reached out to them actually. So that is not in here, but so that's saying we should end up with about 12.4 million. Expenses come over at 10 million. And so it's really saying our estimated ending fund balance is a 2.3, less the 1.3 that we can't touch this year. But together that will be, together the 1.3 and the 993 equals the 2.3.
Okay.
And so we still, with a 2.3 ending balance, and we have a $4 million deficit going into the next year of revenue, we need to, that's what I'm trying to show.
Okay, so sorry, I think that was it. I think the light bulb. So $4 million deficit for next year.
Well, loss
A
of revenue, yeah.
Sorry, loss of revenue.
Uh-huh.
we'll have the 2.3 that we're hopefully made up. So hopefully we're looking at a smaller number
Yes,
of adjustments that we need to make to run at status quo.
Yes.
that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
Yes.
and so the
That's where
idea,
I was going.
Yes.
yeah,
I needed
Yes.
to read it back to you to understand it. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. yeah, so we won't feel as much of a hit, hopefully.
And that's been an effort of, renegotiating contracts, cutting out frivolous expenses.
There's
absorption through
many
natural
vendor
attrition.
expenses, but we have to still remember that maintenance of effort is an issue, and
Yes.
that's why I listed those little items. in the
Can you
first-
explain that to me a little bit? Actually, what is maintenance of effort? I don't understand that. I don't know what that means.
Do you want me to explain it?
Oh, sorry.
ahead.
Okay,
Sorry.
just the,
Go ahead.
just it means that every single dollar in the general fund or that you spend on which is called object, or it's area of responsibility of 320, which is anything to do with sped education. Whatever dollar you spend in the general fund must be matched or you cannot go under, or you owe dollar for dollar back to the state
Yep. Okay. I get
out of
that.
the general
I
fund.
got that now.
So it's kind of behind, it's 2 years behind. It's like 1 year behind. They're matching 21 with 2021 data. And then next year, which we do this report to them in April,
Mhm.
they'll match 21 to 22 data.
Okay.
And so then if we have exceptions, we can apply for exceptions. But
I'm
Okay.
working
yeah.
at a graph right now to show you more in detail through the budget process. We had a slight uptick in sped numbers, but we had an exponential increase in sped expenses during that time. One of the worst things you can do with maintenance of effort is make an exponential leap in terms of your expenses, because now you're
Okay.
obligated
Mhm.
to
Can't go
continuing
backwards.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Since then, we've had some sped numbers drop. And so we're gonna have to appeal for the next 3 or 4 years to the state every spring to try and get that back down to
And
what we
there's-
would deem.
And there's
as-
only like 4 exceptions. They're very particular
Right.
exceptions that have, then you have to follow them exactly to do those. And
And so I understand the reason you can't actually not spend those sped dollars again the next year is that you don't harm that program and those students, correct? You're supposed to continue to meet their needs, which could
Correct.
cost more. And so
yeah,
Correct.
decreasing that shows not necessarily,
We're not harming them. We still
well, it
have
shows
to
we're not
meet
giving them
their-
the same services that they.
We still have to meet
right?
their
Okay.
IEP needs.
Yeah.
It's one of those provisions in federal law. It's not
Mhm.
state law.
It is
It's federal
federal.
law that
Yeah.
we have to adhere to.
Real quick, I got a question on the bus situations.
oh, okay.
It's not sounding like a win-win to me. It sounds like you're asking for money that they should be paying us, but they may not.
No, we've just had our conversation with Willamette leadership, Valley leadership, and we
Yeah.
just haven't had it with Kings Valley yet.
And Willamette said, yeah,
Go
send
ahead
us the
and
check. No,
bill
send us the
us.
bill.
Okay.
And
We're
we've
more than
already,
happy to pay it.
yeah, and this year, as soon as I saw that, I said, go ahead and change it from 10 to 20, and that's what we did. And then also she sent the bill out for the back payments of the 2 years.
Oh.
Because those 2 years, yeah,
It wasn't caught.
it wasn't caught, but yeah, because we had estimated at a 90-10 that we'd get reimbursed at 90, but actually when our enrollment went up,
It was
but our
a-
transportation didn't go up, you qualify for less. And I was like, wow, okay, I see that.
Okay.
It's kind of a,
Yeah, we just
Light
need to
bulb.
meet with Kings Valley and
Perfect.
yeah. So that's those, and these graphs here, of course, just show you again. Did you have any questions? Oh, okay, these graphs here just show you again of general fund monthly expenditure overview on the graphs, which is detailed. It shows you we're still have a nice decrease year to date on purchase services, supplies and capital outlay. And we are not, what I like to see is we're not exponentially increasing. It says 1.4 to 2.3. We're still kind of at it, but we're still at the 2.3 comparing the years. We went from 810, 1.4, 2.3, and then now we're only at 2.342 for the same time in last year. But
so these graphs show a great explanation of
Mhm.
the decrease in costs that we've been incurring.
Mhm.
But it also demonstrates that we're staying at the current staffing levels, and that's where we have to let some air out of the tires because of what's coming up.
So any questions on the graphs? Or any questions in general about payroll?
Can you talk a little bit about, so we cut our purchase service in half so far? So is that expected to go up by no, it wouldn't be, that's July through January.
This is July through January, so compared to last year in January,
Mhm.
that's kind of where we are. And we have done quite a bit of changing around for purchase services.
Okay.
And so those are actual numbers. They're not with encumbrances or anything like that. It's actual invoices that, and then we paid.
Purchase services and supplies have gone down considerably, but we've held pretty much steady on salaries and benefits.
And the other is up just because of the transfer. I've already done the transfer this year
Thank you.
compared to last year's.
Mhm.
That Probably happened in June.
Learning to anticipate my crazy questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, with,
Still learn about you.
if there's no other further questions on the monthly financials, I want to move right over into the supplemental budget. So this is a supplemental budget, which we announced in the newspaper, and it went out hopefully on Friday. It was supposed to be published February 3rd. And it's really, the purpose of this is the whereases, but I will just summarize the purpose of this. We didn't have a 5,000 function in other uses in special revenues. You have to do a supplemental budget announced to the public if you're going to add a function. So that alone requires us to do a supplemental budget.
It's the resolution 2306.
2306, sorry. This supplemental budget includes resources that we had a DEQ grant coming from the state. And so that we're getting 151,000 via the DEQ, which is the Department of Environmental Quality. For 151,000 because we got rid of 4 buses and got 4 new ones. So that's why you see it's at 3299, which is a restricted grants of 151. We're adding the function of 5,000 and it's a debt service. We owe debt on these buses. For this year, it's about a 175. So
Right.
go
Are you
ahead.
moving this 151 over into that services and paying those? Is that what you're doing with this?
So the resources come from 151 from the DEQ state.
Right.
So we'll have that's new money. And then our payments will be going, our appropriation level will be going to the 5,000 debt service at 175,000. And we're moving less from the function in the same 290 fund, which is the bus replacement fund. We're moving from the 2,000 function to the 5,000 function to fix the difference. What's 23,000 to make so they balance of the 151.
I like to think of it as we're moving monies between major file cabinets, not just file drawers, file cabinets, to make sure we can
Yeah.
make our.
And they put it, it was originally budgeted under the 2,000 function, which is the support
Mhm.
services, and it really should have been under the 5,000 to pay for the debt.
Right,
And so that's kind of what we're doing.
right. So you're moving that 151,000 into the right file to pay that debt, I guess is what I was asking.
We're accepting new money and
Yeah.
we're moving 23,000.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, combination of the two.
And so it lists out on the whereases, and we're thankful for this grant that's going through. So it was for long-term debt for bus purchases and to accept the DEQ grant funds for up to 30% for 4 bus purchases. So that's the resolution that you'll be approving later on, if you want to approve it. The ASB funds, this report was. Is this in order?
You're
ASB?
fine.
Okay.
You're fine.
We did some cleanup on the ASB funds. We had a conversation, and I don't know if anybody is here to speak about the ASB funds that you wanted to talk if there's any, but I
Bart,
do
are you-
have an email.
Do you happen to be here? Not sure, he's been
Okay.
kind of down for the count.
Okay,
I can talk about it if you want me to.
yeah, there's 3 items that are still in the red. And I just have a little synopsis that was provided with this via email, but you can go ahead, and talk about it.
Oh, well, the 3 items we still have in the red, and we did shift some funds around within the ASB structure. The 3 areas are still in the red is forestry, annual yearbook, and the leadership student council. Let me talk about these independently. Forestry, we have Mr. Crow working on that right now. He's assured us that with his fundraising efforts, that should be getting the black real shortly. Also, there's a plan moving forward with the annual yearbook. They're starting to evaluate this year's yearbook fees are going to be charging, plus trying to sell off old yearbooks that are still hanging around. So if you know of people that might be interested in those, they're going for a reduced rate, and all that money will be applied to this particular account. Leadership Student Council, and near as we can tell, there was a promise a couple of years ago to infuse that with a $5,000 district transfer. And that's what we've been told, that's what we found out. And so we were able to move some funds around within the ASB to alleviate that down to 3,000, but we may just have to pony up and make that 0 using district funds. They just got behind and the COVID hit and they didn't have opportunities for fundraisers, and it just happenstance it happened. But these funds are now very accurate, and they are all under the requisition process that we use for any other purchase. And so there's checks and balances with these. And I've also encouraged staff to reach to these funds, like for instance, the elementary reading jogathon dollars, 7,217. You know, that would be great for using for field trips in the spring. You know, that's what it's kind of it was fundraised for. That's what it was advertised for. So, you know, I think that we're trying to build awareness with people that, hey, there's these funds sitting here, you know, try and use them, but use them for the right purpose. But also we need to be watching the shop and making sure that funds don't get in the red in the future.
And I wanted to mention, for transparency purposes, we can thank the person accounts payable, but we divvied out kindergarten, 1st grade, 3rd grade, so you can see where the $7,217, the split between where it is really goes to which grade. So that's transparency purposes. We did that.
Sure, we can use that as a competition next year.
There you go.
Any questions? Okay. Okay, try to speed through this because this is the audit presentation, and I just wanted to go. What I did is I hit some highlights that I thought would be as interesting as an audit could be. Let me rephrase that.
Yeah, it's at the bottom
It's
link.
the Alcee School
Okay,
District
financial
ODD
report.
financial report.
So in the audit, if you wanted to follow
It'll
along.
take a second to load this.
Oh.
There it is.
So in the findings, okay, so you have a qualified opinion is not a good thing. And then usually you would have the unmodified opinion is really what you're looking for. So on page 1 or on page I, they gave us a qualified opinion on the GASB 75. And that's the one qualified opinion they gave it to us. It's usually, and it's to do with actuarially post-employment benefits from other pensions. And usually you hire an outside source, and you got this same finding last year. But anyways, it's some schools hire debt book to handle that, but I don't know if we really can see the cost weight benefit for that finding only. Otherwise, they gave us an unmodified opinion, which is good. So no, page 1, it just shows you on page 1 of the audit, just your net position. And when I look at this, if you're in a private industry, your net position really is, if you go belly up, that's, you have assets to cover your liabilities, I'm pretty sure. And so our assets are 9.1 million, and our liabilities was the 7.4. And so you have some current, and then you have capital assets of the 2.3 million. And then you have deferred, which is deferred is your net pension related and PERS and so forth. So we're at a 1.6 million on net position as a whole. So then some other information on that is also on page 2. On page 2, you can see that last year our net position was the 1.1 million, and we had a gain of up to 1.6, which is a $554,000 gain from last year. Some other information is on page 9. I just wanted to make sure you guys knew we were on modified accrual accounting on page 9. That just means the revenues are recognized when they happen. So they push them back for modified accrual accounting. It's really accrual accounting. Modified comes in when you have some accounts that are cash based. We have page 10. I was going to show you some detail. So on page 10, we had we went over appropriation level, and it's really to do with, which is not good, to do with how our budget resolution was adopted in 21-22, and they split out your special revenue funds. So this year it's fine, but last year it was kind of split out into little even funds. So you couldn't just take all my special revenue funds and all the functions within and say that you didn't go out of appropriation level. They split them out. So that's listed here on page 10. It says, let me just read that. Budget amounts shown on the basic financial statements reflect the original budget appropriations amount. Expenditures of the various funds were within authorized appropriation, with the exception of the special revenue funds, support services in the amount of 25,000, special revenues, enterprise and community, which is your 3,000 level, of 32,000. So with that exception, and they will refer back to that issue throughout here. And the detail of that is on page 35, but we'll run through that later. Page 14. Page 14 actually just shows you your cash and investments as of 6/30. It's just a good synopsis of the 3.4 million means that that's liquid, that's current assets, liquid cash kind of thing. It's in, your investments is your LGIP and then banks. And page 16 is a good capital assets review. You can see what we own, the depreciation we took on it, and the cost. There was a gym cost that was depreciated that we had to fix of about 66,000 issue, and then disposing of our one bus. But that gives you your 2.3 on your capital assets loss or gain there. And long-term obligation is on page 28, 29. This page 28 tells you your GO bond obligation, your citizen bank loans, which is your house. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, we have about 4, well, it's a little more than 4 buses, but there's some bus loans that are current that they wanted to list out. And on page 29, I actually list exactly where you land and how much is due in the next year. So any questions on those? It's a good idea. Page 30 shows your interfund transfers. We'll come back to this issue. You had appropriated 281,000 in a transfer from the general. What happened last year was 80,000 went to bus replacement fund. And it should have gone, oh, anyways, and then federal lunch program only got $647. Capital projects of the 200,000. The 200,000 goes over into your beginning fund balance, which helps your bond project. So last year you got 200,000, this year you have as a beginning fund. So I'll try to skim through here if you want me to. So we have 34, page 34. You can, this is where I like to read a lot. I mean, as far as general fund, page 34 tells you your like, how much did we actually spend? Final budget, how much did we spend of it? Which this is your general fund on page 34. So that's your ending fund balance. It moves over to special revenue funds, and you can see that you're actually negative 192 in your special revenues. This is rolled, and I wanted to just give a shout out that this is going to be fixed, and it as soon as we receive the money, but this is where our sam.gov got fixed, so we are registered now, which is a big
Which
feat.
is a big thing.
It is a big thing.
Big.
And so now we're able to collect this money from the electric connectivity funds?
Yes.
Electronic connectivity funds,
Those little
okay.
taxes you pay on your phone bill.
And
things
so,
like that.
yeah, and so that money will be coming from the ESD very shortly in
Mhm.
the US. So that'll,
So then we won't be 192,000.
not that one, correct, not that one. The next page is your federal lunch program, which
Which page? Sorry, I think I lost you as I was
36.
listening. Thank you.
36. You can see that one ended up as a negative because there wasn't that general fund transfer. So
There was supposed to be, right?
we'll went to the bus replacement fund, yeah. So that is a beginning fund balance that we'll have to clean up, and there is, I think it's $120,000 that we haven't moved over yet, that it was in that transfers that was approved and adopted. I don't know if you saw that. Or you guys notice what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So then my question, I think, is when this is all cleaned up, then it's going to lower our ending fund balance.
The 100, yes, there's the 120 that I was hoping from the general fund transfers that was approved. I was hoping we would have to use that to you, and so it could help our ending fund balance in the general fund. But this negative for our food service can't be that way. It's so we have to do something to fix that. And it didn't happen correct in the past. So anyways, but we do have appropriations still of 120 that we haven't changed this year, so it's already been approved.
Is this corrected for next year? Is this fixed for next year or for this year?
For the most part, and the big part of it is yeah, you actually I'd have to check to see where the general fund, I'd have to actually look into that to see exactly where the appropriations went and to see if anything already went to the food services this year and to see where we are. So I can just make sure I report on that next month.
Thank you.
Any balance. So. And then we have student body funds, which are a problem. It's 32,000. Debt service is 29,000. That's money that we use as a beginning fund balance this year to pay for some of our bond debt service for next year, which is this year. And then of course, capital projects on page 39. That's where you end up, your ending fund balance is a 2 million. You can also see on page 40, which is your bus replacement fund, you didn't get any state sources to pay for your buses. So you use that 80,000 transfer in there that you actually only budgeted 5,000 for, went to your bus replacement, and you didn't, and it was probably bad timing, but that money should probably, when it said state sources, was supposed to come from DEQ last year, but the buses were late getting in. So then you can't ask for reimbursement for buses you haven't received yet, kind of thing. So anyways, it was a timing issue. And so then the money transferred to the bus replacement fund to cover kind of our expenses for last year. We're getting our money this year. And then really I was going to show you on page 30, all the way through 37, ASB debt services and it also shows you your transfer on page 39 of more capital project money. And
So that one came in
Page
at a
39.
620,000 deficit,
where?
the capital project fund.
No. No,
So you
Um,
originally budgeted and then the final budget and then the actuals.
this variance column really is compared, what did you actually have compared to what you budgeted? So actual was 0, but we budgeted 32,000. So it's a negative variance there. We didn't get any money from our local sources, which actually is interest, and state sources, which is actually your awesome grant. We did not get any money. And so then it would show the negative on that side. So it's comparing, that column is comparing to your budget.
Okay.
Oh, and then page 44 is just, I thought it's a good synopsis of how much energy bills you have all year. It's about 70,000. And all they say in the end is they didn't find anything except the exceptions of overusing those authorized appropriations on page 10. And then of course the
Back to page 44.
44.
I guess I should ask you that beforehand, just dawned on me. It says energy bills for heating.
energy bills.
Is that the 70,000, is that diesel fuel?
Oh, it includes those 3 objects, which is energy bills, electricity. It includes all 3 objects, heating, if you pay propane in it. So,
Okay,
so
propane,
yes,
electricity
and
and,
yeah, it's
fuel.
anything to do with running your, and it's just general fund.
okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Mhm. So, and the SIA requires us to actually present our audit. So this will be good. This will be in the minutes. Is there any other questions?
Very thorough presentation. Go ahead.
Deb, any question? I don't have any questions.
I don't. I want to go through that a little more. I'm actually gonna print. Can you actually print that off for me?
Yeah.
I'd really rather not use all my ink that I just bought at home.
Actually, the bound copy, so I was not able to get bound copies yet. The bound copies will be coming,
Okay.
but I can always print one off for you.
If you could
Yeah.
print that off and then just let me know when it's ready and I can swing by and grab it. Because I really would like to look through that.
Mhm,
And I'm a paper kind of girl.
mhm. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Lorraine, you probably need to talk about the budget calendar
Oh,
and also budget committee members.
sorry, I didn't have that one printed off, but in front of you, you should have a budget calendar that came up last month, has not changed. So that's just for your review. I had already looked at the hour dates and they work for me.
And we need the board to approve that tonight.
Yes.
And then do we, who are the vacancies on our committee that we're approving? Because I,
Well, if you click on the budget.
There
committee
shouldn't be any,
members
except if they
attachment,
came back to say no.
I tried calling today. I got 2 yeses and had to leave messages.
So we're missing possibly 3 seats.
Well, they really
Until
haven't-
I hear for sure.
yeah, they haven't gotten back yet.
Messages because they were.
Yeah, their term is not up, but they could be having other obligations. They would. So usually when this is approved, then you send out the calendar and say, thank you, and here's your times you would need to be here, and to the people that are on your budget committee.
and you'll be sending that out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So
about the budget?
Racine,
Yes.
on the budget committee, on the board part, there's several changes that need to be updated.
No, are you sure?
Yes.
Robert, we have-
you're
the
yeah.
chair, I'm the vice chair. Robert isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
Oh,
And Kenny Vogler, I don't think is there anymore.
we'll have to get confirmation, I think, from him.
yeah, because he's still under term.
Oh, he-
I don't think we ever got anything formal in writing.
And that was just based on last year's information. That's why it's rolled over, and I can update that to this current year's information of the vice chair and chair. And then new names.
Mr.
Yeah.
Rhodes.
Yeah. We can do that.
Thank you for that call out, Linda.
Pardon?
I said, thank you for that call out.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So is there any other financial items that?
Well,
I
we
don't
are gonna have
have
approval of
access.
the bills, right?
Yes, and I can maybe answer as best as I possibly can. I don't have them in front of me, so just any description will be great.
Well, I will call out that we spent less money in January than we spent in December, and we had 2 weeks
Yes.
less in December. So I thought that
Doing
was
well.
So it's trending, huh?
pretty interesting number. And we spent less in January. Well, the dates are different because remember, we used to do the dates like mid-month, and now we're doing month beginning to month end.
That
But,
matches the
um,
financials better, actually.
But
so.
it is less than last year's presentation of bills either also. So that was good to see. So thank you to everybody who are making adjustments.
Everybody's been working hard and contributing.
So if there's no further questions,
I don't think so. I don't see anything that's jumping out and asking for questions.
I think then I get to ask for, is there an approval to pay the bills?
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, have motions to pay the bills. Ryan seconds. Any board member discussion?
Nope.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Linda,
Yes.
Soren,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Christina's a yes. All right, discussion time for policies. There was a large list of them. They are broken out. Let's see, there were some food service ones removed, correct?
Yes.
Those were ones removed.
Yeah, so those will come back later.
I'm just trying to think of the highlights that I had. Does anybody have any discussion they want to talk about with policies?
I think Soren had a couple of questions.
Just as far as there was EBB there was a spot where there needed to be a position filled in. It's integrated pest management.
EBB.
Yes, EBB, integrated pest management. There's a spot where you need to have the title of someone who's in charge of any sort of pesticide application, and it's blank. We just need to fill in facility or maintenance facilities person.
Yeah, it should be Keenan.
But we wouldn't put his name in the policy?
Well, we
No, it'd
put
be his
facility
position.
manager. I'm not quite seeing that.
I'm not either.
Remember where?
Well, it may have been fixed. It was something that Shirley had sent me. Like, these are the policies the board is working on.
Oh, she might have sent it to you before it got fixed.
Could be.
That could
In which
be.
case, never mind.
Yeah, because
As
I'm
long
seeing
as-
the district shall designate the facilities manager.
Okay, well, that's what I was looking for in that spot,
Yeah,
and it's
mhm.
there now, so.
It's there. But thank you.
I do see, I will admit, I was done reviewing these last week, so I did see JHH is a new one, for me at least. I'm not gonna say it's new for everybody, but do you want to talk through this one a little bit, Mr. Gallagher? Because this is
Sure.
student suicide prevention.
JHH.
Yeah,
I
it's
only-
the very bottom one.
I only included that as we're gonna be talking about the potential approval of the suicide prevention plan tonight. And this is a policy you guys have not seen yet, but it is in the hopper and it is coming to you very quickly, first reading for next board meeting. So I just only included it as a reference, so it's not
Okay.
first reading tonight.
And it's not in our approval packet.
It's not in your approval packet, just as a reference.
Okay, thank you for that call out. The only other call I wanted to make on agendas for if we're gonna bring things next week, did you and Mr. Rothenberger still want the board to review overnight trip policy? That's
Yes, that-
still one that hasn't come to us
that
yet.
hasn't come yet.
So I don't know in what line that falls in the OSB, but I know it's been kind of a
Probably the next
topic.
round. We just met with Mr. Stuckey from OSBA today for the last time.
Okay.
And I do believe we have 2 more packets to be bringing to the board. I'm sure that's in there.
Right.
It's coming.
Stay
Stay
fine.
tuned.
I know it's been a conversation, so I
I know it
wanted to
has.
keep
I know it has.
keep it at the top of our
Yep.
list.
Yep, absolutely.
I've taken enough time on this. Anybody else have any discussion or questions on the policies?
So we are approving and putting to rest readings 2 and 3rd readings policy, is that correct? So it'd be A and B discussion.
You can approve the 2nd reading tonight and the 3rd reading if you would like.
But they are policies DB through FL
For 3rd reading.
for 3rd reading.
And then
Where's-
2nd reading is GAA through GDPA-AR.
Okay, that did not make it onto the agenda. Can you read me that again so I can put that in the notes really quick?
It's in discussion.
It's not on the action.
GAA.
It's not on the action. I was gonna make a note in the
So
action. if we need it.
GAA.
Oh, it's not
Thank
in
you.
the,
Dash GDPA dash
Thank
AR.
Followed
Oh,
by
you're right. We
or
missed it.
through.
The 3rd reading is DB through FL.
Okay, that one's on there, but
That
it's
one's on there.
GAA through GDPA
Dash
AR.
AR.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Sorry about that.
You guys always have fun letting me read those.
Yeah, we missed that.
Okay,
And then our suicide prevention's coming back next month,
That's the next discussion item.
okay?
well, I moved on the agenda, sorry, just because I wanted to check the action on the policies. So
Okay,
we have 2nd and 3rd readings too, that we are allowed to, that we can approve tonight,
Yes.
and we don't have any 1st readings in our packet
No.
for this month.
No.
Does that clear up any questions?
yep, that's what I was asking.
Okay. All right. If there's no discussion, then we will move right into patron comments.
We still have 8C, D, E, and F.
What?
Aren't
Oh,
we in discussion?
sorry. Yes, we are. I just was scrolling through the long list of policies. So
It's
I apologize.
and dating. Yeah, I
So-
get it.
Yes, you're not at the patron comment section.
No.
We're at discussion C, suicide prevention plan.
Okay, you should be able to find that plan. And Haley, are you with us tonight? Plan is under action items. It says Alcee Suicide Prevention Plan Draft. Haley, are you with us?
She might have to be.
She may have gone to bed,
Well, no, she had to be unmuted.
unmuted.
Oh, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Haley. How are you?
Hi, I'm great, guys. How are you guys?
Good. Hey,
Good.
just kind of as an introduction, Haley's been working hard on the suicide prevention plan. This is required per the board policy that I showed you earlier. That's coming up. You haven't seen the first reading yet. I'm just using that as a reference. It's also a Division 22 requirement and a state law requirement that we have a prevention plan that is posted on our website, that is available in our offices, and the public can view and see. And it's simply a list of expectations that the district needs to adhere to. That includes staff training, it includes age-appropriate education for kids. A lot of times it's just a matter of who do I go see if I'm feeling sad or depressed or I'm not thinking well. Those resources and identify those. It also provides training for staff on identifying what are the signs and symptoms of somebody that might be suicidal. And it could happen at any level. And so, Haley, I'm going to ask you to kind of walk us through this suicide prevention plan and kind of just hit the highlights tonight, if you wouldn't mind. You okay for that?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
It's all
That
yours.
that was a great intro. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right, so all the board members have access to the suicide prevention plan document, correct? Okay.
Yep,
Yes.
it's right in front of us.
All right. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just gonna scroll down. Of course, we have the table of contents. Don't really need to go through that, I don't think. Section 1 is the introduction. So the reason why, as Mr. Gallagher said, this is a part of Senate Bill 52. It's also called Addie's Act. It was passed in 2019 and requires Oregon school districts to publicly post a comprehensive plan for suicide prevention, intervention, and postvention response. So that's kind of the reason why we're moving in this direction, and we're a little late to the game, but we're here and we're doing this. I noted some quick notes. If you scroll down, there's some general definitions here: crisis team, mental health, protective factors. I do want to note that Forest Grove School District, so I'm down at the acknowledgements again. Forest Grove School District was identified by the Oregon Department of Education as a model plan for school districts to follow. So the guideline I used in the format of this plan is adapted from Forest Grove's document, as well as the other acknowledgements noted here. So the same, that section 1, all of these definitions and so forth are very similar across the state of Oregon for multiple different school districts. 90% of school districts that have a suicide prevention plan have based it off of Forest Grove School District's prevention plan. So just noting that. But section 2, our prevention, this is kind of where it becomes more applicable to Alsea School District and what we're doing as a district and as a school. So this is kind of section 2, the prevention section, is kind of where further discussion and collaboration may be needed. I'm not sure if it shows on your guys' draft, but there are definitely some points highlighted here.
Yes, we can see the highlights.
Okay, cool. So for example, the first highlight is all school staff will receive Safe Schools training. So that happens at the beginning of the year. There is a Safe Schools module for all staff to take and go through that's already in place and implemented. QPR training, so this question, persuade, refer training at minimum every other year. I don't think this is something, and I have asked administrators, I don't think this is something that's happened in the past, but we need to bring it to our school district. So I have been in touch with LBL ESD. They do have a trainer available that is more than willing to come out and train our staff for some PD. It's about a 2-hour training. I spoke briefly with Mr. Clendenin about it. He said maybe we could squeeze it into our February 24th teacher work day. So we'll cross our fingers that all works well, that we can get our teachers trained as soon as this month. And then, yeah, the third point there is access to review the district suicide prevention policy and plan. So that is this 13, 15-page document, whatever it is.
But the policy is what the board saw tonight, just as a sample, and that'll be coming
yes,
to
yes,
reading next.
Exactly. And I would love, yeah, once we have that noted, I would love to add that also. So, in addition, the next highlight is that designated staff members, which are school counselors, other mental health professionals, admin, receive assist training. This is just a more intensive training that school counselors, mental health professionals, and or administrators, if there is no school counselor on staff, should have. I am assist trained, if that helps. But scrolling down here to the students, I think this is where I'm getting a lot of questions, which is great. But noting this curriculum. So the core curriculum for suicide prevention, this is the main priority, is looking at this K-12 curriculum piece, I think, in my personal opinion. specifically for our younger kiddos, we're looking at K-6, right? So our 7th through 12th graders, they are receiving health curriculum, and I did highlight health curriculum, but really our kindergarten through 6th grade, they're not getting health. So, or our kindergarten through 5th grade, they're not receiving health. So really this is health curriculum in 7th through 12th grade. They're receiving some sort of health and wellness. And I did speak with our current health teacher, and there is a suicide, like signs of suicide, and embedded into her curriculum already, but it's really focusing on, I mean, Oregon Department of Education is asking us to do a K through 12 curriculum, right? So what does that look like for our kindergartners through 5th grade or kindergartners through 6th grade? What does that exactly look like? I think is kind of like, that's our topic for discussion. And then scrolling down, I can answer questions after we are finished here, but scrolling down, populations at elevated risk. So this is just noting and identifying populations that may be at a higher risk, identifying them. Section 3 notes intervention. So that's identifying risk factors and protective factors. And then the suicide response protocol will of course be helpful after our staff QPR training, kind of knowing, I mean, as far as staff response goes, knowing who to report to, and when concern is brought up. And then establishing a reentry procedure. And then the section 4 mentions the postvention, meaning in case of a suicide happens, like what is our school response? At the very end of that section, I noted a postvention protocol. So, and we would work closely with LBL ESD and their crisis team on that. So section 5 is resources, their local resources, and then just general resources, that Benton County crisis line. And then some helpful calming apps. And then page 12, that suicide risk assessment. This is just, I mean, for community, just so you guys know, like what's happening if, and this is if I receive information from a teacher or a kid or however, and this is the assessment that I'm using with the kiddo. So the school screening, that 2-page school screening, and then whether or not I'm collaborating with additional trained staff. So I always like to call Benton County Mental Health to collaborate with, especially in such a small school when I'm doing an assessment. And then the last 2 pages are just examples of a student coping plan. These are my personal favorites and what I personally like to use. But yeah, I mean, I do want to preface saying that this is a draft plan that's being presented to you guys, because I know this is not something that we just want to give the stamp of approval for, right? Like this is a much larger conversation. I want to make sure that we're doing what we're saying we're doing before we put this out to the community. I want to make sure that we're implementing curriculum that is beneficial for our kids and our students. And yeah, any questions, concerns, comments?
There are the health standards that I could send to the board if you're interested in looking at these, especially the early grades. And I don't see anything in the health standards that directly refers to suicide, but it talks about different resources. It talks about bullying and teasing or inappropriate behaviors. You know, it talks about defining personal boundaries. You know, a lot of those different sorts of things that we all know can lead to suicidal tendencies. So that's the part of the deep dive that we need to do as a district, is to look at our early grade curriculum, particularly with health, and compare it to the standards and say, gee, how are we accomplishing this? What are we doing? What kind of activities are we doing? What kind of lessons are we doing? And that's going to take some time to develop. In the meantime, I am asking the board to approve this plan tonight because that meets our obligation to Division 22 standards, also state law. And like Haley said, we're a little behind the curveball on this because it's a law that came into play in 2019. Be nice to get these resources out. And if, as Haley and I and the admin team further investigates the curriculum side and takes a look at these things, we can keep you posted in terms of what things are looking like that meet the suicide prevention plan standards.
So Haley, I'm gonna go ahead and speak up at this point. It's Christine. I got the privilege of, and thank you, Mr. Gallagher, 'cause I got the privilege of getting to talk through this a little bit with Haley and understand not only her passion for this, but some of her hesitancy in it also. And Haley, I'm not trying to speak for you, so you speak over me and keep me honest. I'll speak to my concerns with this plan. The CDC does not actually measure suicide rates under the age of 10. So we don't have data for that. I do know that the Oregon Department of Education also does publish a white paper on the appropriateness of when to have conversations. I'd love to see this built into the plan. I think it's really important that we have that built into a plan so that as parents and as board members, that we're understanding what is appropriate to discuss at each age limit and give the teachers some guidance in that. I would say that in these areas that this is being a draft, I have some concerns of when things are going to get looked at to be completed. And I think a huge gap here, students spend a lot of time here in the school, and there's not a plan of communication in here for how we're going to implement this and how we're going to involve the parents in these discussions and decisions around their children's safety. I have a huge desire to make sure that is written into an implementation plan, because I think it is vital to the success of students that their parents be hand in hand working with the school district to keep their kids safe. That is my opinion on it. And I appreciate the work. Thank you so much, Haley, for making this a priority.
I appreciate all of your comments, Christine. I agree 1000%. So yeah, any feedback I can get from anybody, I appreciate. So thank you.
Other discussion from anybody?
Nope.
I am a little bit curious as what if there are other places that have put this into place with what the K-5 curriculum looks like in some other places.
Yeah, I was curious too. Yeah, so after doing some digging, it looks like, so there's a curriculum called The Great Body Shop, which is a very popular health curriculum given often kindergarten through 6th grade. Yeah, and it's kind of umbrellaed under a social emotional learning curriculum. But yeah, that's, I mean, absolutely something that we can look at as a district. We would obviously need to purchase the curriculum and train our teachers in teaching the curriculum, but yes. I think there's many curriculums out there that if we go ahead and we go forth with this plan and using it as a K-12 curriculum plan, that we'll have to take a look at.
Keep in mind, any adopted curriculum has to have board approval. So that's something that we need to do, is we need to do a deep dive in terms of what curriculums are available for our elementary and bring that to the board. Yeah.
I apologize. I do have one more question, and it has to do with the applied suicide intervention skills, the assist.
Okay.
I don't understand, why is the retraining or the refresher training only every 5 years?
This was just I mean, this is a 2-day in-person training. So I personally have received this training. Yeah, it's a very in-depth training for mental health professionals. So yes, does that help? Does that answer your question?
I just didn't know what it was. So yes, that answers my question. Thank
No
you.
worries. No worries. Yeah, of course. Any other comments?
All right.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Haley.
Thanks, Haley.
Let me scroll back to the top of the
Next is our
communication plan. Ms. Cash, are you online?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Sarah.
Okay, great. Sean, do you want to give a little introduction or you just want me to dive in?
Yeah, we know that one of the interest areas of the board has been communications. And so since we've acquired Sarah as our public informations officer, this is something we've been working on for a few months now. And Sarah feels that she has it in a pretty amenable form and wanted to present it to the board tonight. We certainly are open up to feedback. Also, Sarah, I do believe you have some statistics you might want to share with us too in terms of some of the communications you've been doing. I'm looking here to see if we have that in the board packet. I don't believe we do. So you might want to, February report on communications. There we go. Yeah, so maybe Sarah, you want to take us through that? And then go right into the communications plan?
I do. Thank you for having me tonight, folks. I'm sorry I didn't come over. Cash and I have both been sick. And I just thought I'd stay home. So did you have time to read through the report? Did you bother? You had so much other stuff to do.
I think some of us did, but it'd be really great if you could go through it for some of the community that maybe haven't had a chance to read through it. We can go through it right now.
Very good. I'm going to start off with communications to the community because that is a huge part of my role at the school. And we've had some great developments around communication with the community. In December, we had the first issue of the new school newsletter that's digital at this point in time. It's called Wolverine News. And the topic for December was we couldn't do this without you. And so I got the newsletter together and I posted it in the morning. And then I went over and made breakfast and I thought, oh gosh, I'll go look and see if anybody has looked at the newsletter. Well, 109 people had looked at the newsletter in that hour and a half that I'd been away from the computer. So that was interesting. So people are eager for good news about the school. And I'm going to keep the newsletter as positive news to communicate with folks outside the district and inside the district. Altogether, we've had 103 visitors as of the end of December to that December newsletter. It was seen all across the United States. In Hawaii, Canada, and the UK, we must have some folks who are stationed overseas or something, relatives of school members. And I sent this out in email blasts. I posted it on Facebook and it's posted on the website as well. So there's lots of different ways to access it. The January theme was how art happens at Alcee School. And we had only 50 visitors the first hour on that one. But by the end of the day, we'd had 100. And then by the 4th, we'd had 161 visitors. And if you want to look at a breakdown about the amount of time that people spent interacting with the newsletter, you can see it there. In December, Nathan got the new Facebook page, in September, Nathan got the new Facebook page launched. We have 78 followers, 892 total visitors, and 474 visitors have had post-visit engagement. I'm not savvy enough about Facebook to know what that really means, but I think it means they liked or they shared, that kind of thing. And I will say that the usage has been rising steadily and has just started to take some bigger jumps just lately. So a way that the community could help is to go find our page and use it and share it. I post district news and sports news and things like that are handled by other people. So the second page of the report tells you a little bit about the communications development work that we've been doing over the last several months. In addition to the communications plan, that's a draft that I'll show you tonight. I've developed a strategic communications plan that I hope is aiding and will continue to aid with the transitions in the district over the next coming months. Sean and I have worked really closely. We meet together about once a week, and we've worked on some communications procedures. I formed a communication advisory board with Michelle Morimoto, Amanda Sapp, Molly Schultz, and Heather Shunk. Thank you for participating. All of these people have backgrounds in communications or school development. We've had increased coverage over the last few months in the Alsea Valley Voice. We have a new monthly column in the Philomath newspaper around the 25th of every month, and that's a topic of our choice. So this is the kind of place where the community could give me great topics about the school district we could write on. We've also got some statewide coverage through the OSB weekly daily newsletter, and then also on their Bright Side postings that they do on Facebook. The 4th and 5th grade mural made that, as did Miss Jones' book boxes that she had in the January newsletter, excuse me. So I've been working more with Ristine to try to help get school board communications out, and I'll be working with Nancy Giggy to get out communications for the Alsea Bond project as things ramp up here. And then for future plans for communication development, we need to do some communication surveys of the community and hopefully the staff and students as well. Are people getting the information that they need? How would they like to receive information? One big piece is, I wonder if we need to be printing off some copies of our digital newsletter for folks who don't have internet access at home. So that's a place where I could really use some feedback from the community. The irony being I don't know how to contact the people who don't have internet access. So somebody needs to let me know what we can do about that. Maybe we could mail things out, or we could put some on the counter at John Boy's or something like that. All right, I'd like to work. Sorry.
Sarah,
Yeah.
definitely bring some of those copies up to the cafe.
Oh, okay.
because
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
A lot of people that
Yeah.
want to know what's going on, and I definitely know some people up there that don't use the internet.
And maybe we should just post them on the bulletin boards. I'm realizing as you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
How
bring
many
me
would
a sheet that we can set out for people to read.
Right. How many would you like to have?
I would say at a minimum 10 to 15 every
Okay.
time.
All right. We'll do it. All right. I'd like to work more closely with Learn at Home to try to educate the community about how things work with Learn at Home and the district, and how we're building a relationship to bring the two arms of the district closer together. I have some contacts at outside publications like Ruralite and the Eugene Weekly who are ready to publish articles if we can come up with the right topics. So look for that in the spring. I'm going to be actively working on that. I'm always trying to get more student and staff content. And that's been improving as well, especially since the newsletter came out. I think people understand that there's all this wonderful news that we can share with the community about the wonderful programs that we have, the wonderful projects that happen in the classrooms, and the wonderful staff who are just so dedicated to the kids at our school. And then ultimately, I'd like to do community outreach and inclusion. I have a Then and Now article starting in the newsletters. Alsea Then and Now. I'd like to do alum interviews. I would love to have community members and alumni come into the school and do presentations in the classroom, or perhaps to the entire student body, about how their time at Alsea School affected the career trajectory of their life. And then I'm also putting how you can help articles into the newsletter. All right, any questions about any of that?
No.
Okay, if you're ready to go on to the spreadsheet that should be included in your packet, let me know when you're ready.
Says
And I'll
LC
just-
School District Communications.
I will just,
Mhm.
Yeah.
You can go ahead. We're
Go
pulling
ahead.
it up.
We're good.
okay, all right. So there's 3 pages here. The first is the communications messaging framework. And I want to give a huge thank you to LC alum Amanda Sapp for helping me to develop this. She was pivotal in that. And I'll just go through it very lightly. All 3 of the documents that you'll see on these spreadsheets are living documents. For instance, right now, the guiding premise, the top row there, aligning for student success is developing a mission statement. So right now I just have our older mission statements in here, but soon we should have a brand new shiny mission statement to put there. The guiding purpose for the school is that for over 150 years, ALSI has opened the minds of ALSI children the possibility, prepared ALSI students for bright futures, and strengthened the ALSI community. The values row is where we really start talking about communication. What are the values of the school that we want to keep touching on when we communicate with the public? We want to keep talking about how we're helping children to expand their minds, how we're expecting and creating excellence in programs, projects, and students, how we're strengthening the school community and the larger community, and that we're honoring trust and communications. So that next row I have darker so that you can see that we're kind of shifting gears here now. And these are our 4 areas. Communications development, you can drop down and see some of the items that I have there, like the advisory board, upcoming surveys. Trust and transparency, where we want to increase and strengthen publicly available information to the school community, the ALSI community, and other shareholders. All right, then we want to have a positive public image in internal and outside media. So you'll see there, I've got the Wolverine News, which is apparently going global, which I love it. We're partnering more strongly with the Valley Voice. We're doing press releases to external media. Like I said, we'll be doing some solution-based journalism this spring. And then finally, we have community outreach and inclusion. We want to seek and honor community input and participation in all areas of ALSI school. So we've been doing fireside chats, which have been such an interesting series of conversations. People should come and listen. It's always fascinating what we end up talking about. Let's see, I hope to develop a directory of resources for our school body, different bodies, the staff, the students. I've been being a liaison with ALSI Community Effort and that kind of thing. So if you go to page 2, which is the communications plan for 2022 and 23, you will see that those values and communications objectives from the first page spill over into this page. And we've really already gone through those columns, but this is meant to be a place for strategy and development. And I meant to say before I started going through the spreadsheets with you, they are living documents. I want your participation from the board. I would welcome participation from the staff, from the students, from the community. Please let me know your ideas, your thoughts, your opinions. I'm always open to input, because the one thing I cannot do in my job is make things up. All I can do is report on the information that I have. Okay, so page 3 is the strategic communications plan. You don't really need to dig too deeply into this. I just wanted you to see that we're trying to, I have the goal of educating the public about things that are going to happen rather than just telling them after something has happened. And I'm going to continue working on that as we move forward. And then, okay, so here's what I'm trying to do with communications. I'm trying to tell people what we're doing, why we're doing it, who it affects, and how that relates to our goals and values as a school. All right, I'm done with that. You could ask me questions if you would like to. Don't feel like you have to. And again, I would welcome your input at any level with these documents or with any of communication projects that I'm working on.
Well, I think you're doing a great job. I see your posts all the time. And I see that Ristine shares them. And then I try to share them behind her to make sure everybody gets to see it. So I have really been appreciating your posts.
Yeah, you two are my two tag teamers. I see you pop up together all the time when I'm tracking things. Thank you for that.
I would encourage our community members to shoot ideas to Sarah because we're only so deep in our thoughts.
Well, and tell me what, yeah, tell me what you want to know. Tell me what you want to know. That's very important, to get in touch with me and let me know what people would like to hear about, what they'd like to read about, questions that they have for the district. I've gone and done quite a bit of investigating of questions that people have sent my way. And sometimes it's led to articles that have gone out, and that's been very helpful too. I would like for the community to feel like they know what's happening at their school. That's one of my big goals. And I know that it's a huge goal of this board as well. Your stated goal last March when the interim superintendent came in.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, guys, just for a second, I'd like to address Sarah for a second.
Yeah.
What are the possibilities, Sarah, of, you know, it used to be when the Gazette Times was, is she able to hear me now, or is she leave?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes.
Go ahead. That this next couple of 3 months, they featured the senior class and students and had a little bit of comments about what they're doing, what they have planned to go forward with. And, you know, maybe a picture or something of them, just, you know, the whole class or whatever, and possibly having the student leadership group come up with plans that just short things or discussions with you about prom and different things that they're planning, so that we can get a little advance notice on those things.
Yes, wouldn't that be great? Okay, so were you saying you'd like to see if the GT is still doing a
No, I'm
featuring?
just asking if you can do, because the GT doesn't really do that anymore. If
okay.
Is it, you know, I'm just suggesting that the parents would really like that, I think, in the
Okay.
community.
Do you think that would be a good part of the newsletter? Is that where you were picturing it, maybe? Or
I'm not sure. You're the specialist here. You figure it out.
well, yeah,
I'm
but
just
you know what?
suggesting it's topic.
Okay, well, you know what you want to see, though. You'd like to see photos and a little blurb from each of the seniors.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be much. It's just a recognition of that they're getting here and this is what they're doing, you know, and where they're going. And maybe nobody else wants to hear that, but I always enjoyed it.
Well, I think everybody
Because
wants.
I don't know all the kids personally, you know, so it's kind of nice to know what kind of products we're producing off of this school.
I think everybody wants to hear it, Linda. What I hear from community members is they want to know what's happening at the school and they want to hear the good news. And we have so much good news. That's what's so great about the newsletter. I can hardly stuff everything in there every month that are wonderful things that are happening, and I'm leaving out dozens of things that happen in a month.
But you know, and in the past, the kids through a class produced a little monthly magazine where they did their own stories that was called the Tin Hat Times.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody looked at that thing.
Mm-hmm. Right, right.
So,
I'm
you know,
gonna interrupt really quick and kind of get us back on track because we are already pretty late into the evening. I think this is an amazing idea. I love it. Linda, would you take the opportunity to follow up with Sarah and kind of go through some of
sure,
your
I will
vision
do
of
that. You can call, she can call me.
Perfect. I love that. Thank you so much. All right. Sarah, anything else you want us to know?
No, I'm good if you guys are.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Sarah.
All right, next up is the grant application and MOU for Sarah Littlefield.
Yeah, we're gonna postpone that. Sarah's home ill and there's some things I can do to help move this along. So we'll bring this back to you at the next board meeting.
Okay, and then the GMP discussion.
We had the discussion with Giggy's earlier. I wasn't sure if there's anything else you wanted to talk about in regards to considering those two GMPs for approval tonight.
Can we talk through your understanding of how this goes?
I think the gig is
Okay.
really explained it. I'm very comfortable.
Yeah,
you?
we can discuss it when we go to action items.
Yeah, Linda, yeah, okay.
Let's just do that.
Let's
Yeah.
discuss it. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, then this time I am correct. We are now into patron comments. So, Ms. Olson, I had yours first.
All right, I'm not really prepared to talk about this because this all came up at tonight's meeting, but gonna go for it anyway. About financials. Trying to get an understanding of tonight's financials. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't ring true to me. I don't understand what has changed and why did you up the state school funding?
I'm just marking down your questions. Sorry.
Okay.
What do you mean by that?
So the state school funding amount that we're utilizing is bigger, is larger than it was at the last statement, the last financials. And so she talked a little bit about the ADMW. And those numbers, how it was like 1160 or something like that. And we know it's going down. I mean, you guys have repeatedly talked about that at the board meetings. But now why all of a sudden have we changed it in the financials to indicate, because those were her words. She upped the state school funding. Am I misinterpreting what she said?
I'm pulling it up really quick.
Yes, and I've been trying to look at it on my phone, which is very challenging. Yeah. And trying to compare it to last month's. And anyway, I don't know that we can go into it because this is not supposed to be a two-way. It's only a one-way.
So can I ask you some questions really quick?
Sure.
So I agree. It is hard to get into it right here in a meeting like this. Can I ask, have you had your questions answered from previous regarding budget numbers and things like that?
No.
Okay, then I'm gonna circle back that we've asked that to happen, and I really need these answers to happen. I think so. Mr. Gallagher, can you please schedule a meeting with Ms. Olson and maybe even Larry to go through these numbers to
Absolutely.
provide.
Well, and some
an
of them are,
understanding.
I feel like, are board questions. I'm not sure how Mr. Gallagher would answer some of them, but
Let's go through the board questions and let's see if what we can do for you to get you an email back. I will respond and just say that I think that we are a portion of the lens, but we are not the entire picture of it. And so we need all the people in the same room. We make a decision based on the information that's given to us. So
Yes.
some of those whys I can't give you.
Well, and just even an
so-
acknowledgement or a response that kind of response would be helpful.
Okay.
Because I'm like just waiting, I'm trying to give some grace for sure. I mean, you guys got a ton on your plate and I'm tired too. And I've just been waiting. I guess the most important question to me is the first one I asked, or maybe not the first one, but the question that I asked on December 8th about engagement with the board. So like tonight, we had that presentation all about community engagement. I'm not allowed to speak about that. Yes, there's going to be opportunities for, my mouth is so dry.
Drink some of my water.
That's all right. I could tell from the presentation, there's going to be opportunities, but there have been no community surveys. There's not been a community survey. There's not been an opportunity for the community to know. When I got the email, it said parent survey. I opened it up. Every question is about your student. I don't have a student there. There is no opportunity for community engagement. Who are the partners? Who are your community partners? I mean, they talked about that. I mean, do you know who they are? I'd like to know who they are.
They're on the list. Do you want me to get the list out?
I didn't see anything.
Yeah, there was a list. There was a list on the presentation.
That was our staff and yeah. I hear what you're saying.
Okay. I mean, I think there's some real opportunities to get community engagements. We have at least eight nonprofits that almost all of them meet regularly. So interacting with those nonprofits, putting it on their agenda, you asking questions or even just sending something to add to their agenda. There's lots of opportunity for engagement that I don't think is happening. Anyway, back to the financials. If I can talk. I don't understand that. I think she mentioned 615 ADMW. That seems high to me. I mean, how does the current decrease in enrollment of 43 in 1 month affect the ADMW? How does it impact the ADMW? I mean, you guys did all this work to say we need to make all these cuts. We need to cut people by 31%. We need to do these RIFs. And so now it feels like maybe that wasn't necessary or didn't need to be so urgent. I mean, if you're going to change maybe I don't have it right. I really only just looked at it tonight during the meeting, but to me, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't ring true. It feels like manipulation of funding. I think I heard it was either, I could be wrong. I think I heard Deb or Robert talk about at a previous meeting that a portion of the state school funding we may have to pay back based on ADMW. Do you remember that?
It was Robert.
Okay. And
I don't know if that statement, you want a piece of gum?
yeah, well, I have a piece of gum. And that it's allowed for us to use those funds because of the 1-2 year thing, the different levels, that we still might have to pay it back. Am I wrong?
In what you heard? I don't, my understanding is, sorry, I'm gauging my shouldn't.
Okay.
I will say that my understanding is that's not the case, but I would definitely look to our business manager to really map out that picture of what that looks like and how the school finance works.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't mind coming.
Transparency for everybody. None of us are school finance gurus.
Mhm.
That's not why we sit up here.
Right.
We look to people that can guide us in those answers. And so you're asking really good questions that I'm sorry, I'm going to take the road of, I don't know, and I need to learn.
Mhm. Well, and I want to know too. I mean, I'm not sure I understand this completely, but to me, it doesn't make sense the way it is. I mean, looking over the last several weeks and to today. And so I guess, maybe you don't know the answer to this question. Do you agree that this is accurate and the way to go with the financials with that ADMW. Upping the state school funding line item, whatever it is on the financials.
Well, that's why I want that printed out so I can look at that a little closer.
Uh-huh.
Because like you, I'm a black and white kind of person, and I just got this board book stuff yesterday. So I have not had a chance to go through it. And so,
either.
because for whatever reason, my board books was not loaded. And so I didn't get this information until it was too late. And so I'm kind of coming into this meeting a little on the blind side, which I really don't like, because I don't feel like I'm here doing what I need to do because I didn't have the knowledge before today, yesterday.
So Mr. Gallagher, do you and your financial business manager, are you the ones only involved in these financial documents, deciding on the numbers and all of that? I mean, obviously you're getting data from different places, and Lorraine has explained a lot about that. But I mean, does your admin team agree that this is the way to go, that this is accurate? Or are they not involved in this part? Is it just you and Lorraine?
Is this a one-sided or two-sided conversation?
I feel like we owe some responses at this point. We owe a few responses at this point. We have not granted that and given the time to the questions that have been asked to be answered. So, yes, go ahead and answer. How does your admin team play a role in the financials to guide the budget?
We've had multiple conversations as an admin team in terms of where we're headed with our financials. But in terms of knowing exactly what the target is or any kind of cutbacks, we rely upon Lorraine, but she uses multiple sources. She uses people at ODE, at LBL, ESD, other business managers. It's just not a one-person road show. But yeah, I do meet with her regularly, and once we determine what those targets are, then I do involve the admin team. We've already been having lots of discussions about that.
Okay. Do you think I'm wrong in, I mean, and maybe never mind, maybe if I could just come have a meeting to get a better understanding of this, I would appreciate it.
I think it'd be great for you and I and Lorraine to sit down, because you're a member of the budget committee, you know, and you need to understand these things. And we can help explain a lot of these things too, because it's very, very complicated. But I'd be more than happy to spend some time with you.
All right. So, I mean, I'm done really. I do want to figure out how I can have a conversation with the board or engage when I have concerns or just feedback or positive. That is not just a one way. I mean, and I'm wondering why there are comments are not allowed on presentations like this. When you guys are discussing, you know, about things, why isn't a simple comment or feedback about a presentation like that not allowed? So that's, thank you.
Yes.
We'll be in contact.
All right, Sarah Cash online.
Hi, folks. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I just want to read this letter into the record. And I did send this to each of the board members. I don't know whether you read it or not. This letter is from me as a private citizen. That's why it's in patron comments. This doesn't have anything to do with my role as public information officer. Dear school board members, I'm writing to you today as a concerned community member, proud Alsea High School parent, and property tax payer for this school district. This communication in no way represents Alsea School District in my responsibility as the contracted public information officer. This communication is from me purely as a private citizen. I'm writing to the board today concerning the budget crisis Alsea School District is facing. I am working as a private citizen to create a coalition of support across our district and beyond if possible to support increased funding for Alsea School District and other 1A schools across the state. This project is in the very beginning stages. I hope to partner with the Alsea School Board and Alsea community stakeholders in support of this worthwhile endeavor. Our state representatives, Representative Gomberg and Senator Anderson, have recently reached out to the ALSI community, even visiting to say that they will do what they can to assist with concerns or needs that we might bring to their attention. They are aware of some of the challenges our district has faced over the past few years and of how underrepresented small rural communities can be. With Representative Gomberg as the chair of the Ways and Means Committee and Senator Anderson as the chair of the subcommittee on education funding, our representation in Salem is uniquely well positioned to address school funding. 1A schools in Oregon are disproportionately affected by education funding cuts. Rural districts already have lower local tax revenues than larger districts for obvious reasons. And when it comes time to make reductions due to reduced enrollment or funding, we have to cut much closer to the bone than a larger district, with the current proposed reduction in force at our district as a prime example. I intend to create advocacy materials, engage with ALSI community members, testify at appropriate education budget hearings, leverage existing connections with elected state representatives, and possibly network with other 1A schools if they would be interested in advocacy on this issue. It is my hope that the ALSI School Board would want to partner in this timely project through the legislative budget cycle, which ends July 5th, 2023. This could be an exciting project with additional possibilities like having the kids participate in advocacy at the state level, which would be a wonderful opportunity to engage and empower future voting citizens and taxpayers. I wish I could find the right words to show my appreciation for what all of you are volunteering, I want to put an exclamation point, to do for the benefit of the students at our school, the entire community, and the future of our kids. Thank you for your time, your service, and your consideration. I hope to be able to be of support to the board, the district, the students, and our community on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any hands up, do you? Okay. Next is board comments. Do we have any board comments? All right, I get to be the fun person that brings up. We have new people this evening. So I just want to talk through a little bit. My board comment this evening is that it is a genuine reminder that we deal with highly confidential information that has the ability to break down the walls of this school and really stir emotions and the negative impact when we share things inappropriately. So executive sessions and superintendent searches are confidential strictly. We're not to get outside of those realms. Also, I firmly believe that each one of our personal stories is the reason why we are here, and they gauge our vote in how we vote and put things forward. However, I myself am guilty at times of sharing too much of my own personal story when I get into why I feel some way. So I will reiterate and ask that as board members, we let our experiences shape our votes, but keep some of our information confidential and to point of the information that we're looking at. So that's my board member comment today. Into action items. I need to make a motion to add policies GAAG through GDPA AR second reading as an approval item or as an action item.
I'll make a motion to add the said policies to make it an action item.
One second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
Vote. Linda?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Soren?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Christine is a yes. So do we have an action item for action item A to approve policies DB through FL?
So we already did the approval of the GAA or
No, I added that on as an action because we didn't amend it in the beginning.
So can we do both both packages?
Absolutely, yes.
So I would like to make a motion to approve the second reading of GAA, GDPA-AR, and DB-FL for third reading for approval.
Nicely done.
I'll second that.
I had it wrote out.
Very good.
All
I
right, there's a
second.
motion. Okay, there's a motion, there's a second. Discussion?
No.
No,
All right, Linda,
Yes.
Ryan,
yes.
Soren,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Christina's a yes.
Get those off our plate.
Thank you very much.
Nice job.
Next
There's more
up,
coming.
next up
Yes, there
is
is.
the suicide prevention plan.
I think we need to let our young lady that's working so hard on this continue her amazing work and approve the suicide prevention plan.
Right, there's a motion to approve the suicide prevention plan.
I will second for discussion.
All right, so there's a second for discussion. Deb, you're first for discussion.
So I really believe that she is only in the beginning stages of this. And I would really like to see some more work done on it, the things that you have brought forward and add to this, because I think it really is important work for our students and their safety. And so I think this is just the beginning, but I'd like to see it keep going.
Okay. Ryan?
Yeah, I will second that. And then like what Mr. Gallagher said, to get the curriculum out to the community that we may be using through the 5th through 12 or kindergarten through 12 so that they can review that.
Yeah, I think that the curriculum for the 6 through 12, I mean, I remember seeing this in the past and it's pretty clear, but the K through 5, I just don't really have any idea what that's gonna look like. I'd like to see it. I think people in the community probably would like to see it too.
Linda, do you have any discussion?
No, I can agree with all of you.
I will just say, it is my feeling that we are rubber stamping something and we're putting something out there because Oregon Department of Education is requiring it. And my fear is that we have done this in the past as a school and it has not gotten worked on after it's gotten approved. So I feel as for myself, approving this is approving something incomplete and irresponsible. And that's my opinion. Deb, do you have secondary discussion or do you have another discussion you'd like to go through?
Yeah, so I understand where you're coming from. As a board member, I would like to make sure that we don't just rubber stamp this and then let it go. I think we need to follow through with it, maybe each month, and have the young lady come back and just kind of give us guidance of where she's at and make sure it continues to move forward.
Right? Okay. Soren?
Yeah, I'm okay with just making sure that we follow up because it's easy to lose track of things. We just have to make a note to keep following up, making sure this happens because it does refer to that curriculum in there. Without seeing it, I'm a little uncomfortable proving something that refers to curriculum and I haven't seen it.
So with that, I will ask Deb, do you have an amendment to your motion?
Yes, I think we need to amend that this is going to be checked upon each month and based upon a curriculum brought forth so we can look at it before we just let her have a free for all, whatever curriculum she wants. I think we need to approve that curriculum.
Yeah, all curriculum has to be approved.
Yeah, but we're kind of giving her a prevention plan and she's just saying that she's working on it. But I think we need to really dial it down before we.
So I'm gonna try to paraphrase that. So your motion is
May,
to approve.
may I add a little discussion here?
Oh, absolutely.
Is
Let me just clarify the motion on the floor really quick, Linda. So
Okay.
the motion with the amendment is to approve the suicide plan with monthly review by the board.
Yes.
Is that a fair?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Linda. Sorry, but
I just wondered if we could slide the responsibility back to the staff that's proposing this and specifically address certain things that we would like to see updated and changed that we agreed sort of tonight that should be. And then have it checked back instead of just kind of throwing it out there to check back on it. If that makes sense to anybody. I mean, there are certain sections of it that needed to be updated and continued, and so can't we just specify that that should happen?
I need to actually ask Mr. Gallagher. I don't think we can instruct Haley on how to do that.
You
That
can
would be
instruct me.
something you,
Yeah,
so
you
by,
instruct me.
so
and I
we would be
follow
instructing you
you,
to
yeah,
like
me.
follow up monthly
Mhm.
and bring it to
Yep,
us, correct?
absolutely. I think
Linda,
that's a
does
good plan.
that meet your need?
Yeah, I just didn't want to lose the certain things that we discussed, even if it's just a suggestion that we still would like to hear about these things. If that's not possible, it's not possible.
So if, what I'm hearing is, to approve the plan pending monthly review, and we move forward with identifying a curriculum. I also heard earlier about fleshing out more of a communications plan and involvement with parents. And that would be easy for us to bring back on a monthly basis. And I really feel we can complete and wrap this up by the time I leave in June. And so it's a complete package at that point. And also keep in mind that board policy does dictate that even though you approve the plan tonight, the plan does say there's curriculum involved. Anytime there's curriculum, we have to have a board approved. So we will be following through with that.
Well, it's board approved and it's out for 30 days for the community and parents to
Mhm.
review also.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm fine.
I'm
But-
just gonna say, I still feel like Haley put a ton of work into this and it's such a sensitive subject and it's such an important topic. I really wish that she would have gotten the support to really put together a plan that was complete, because I think there's a support component, but that's fine.
They're done.
So with that, we've gone through 2 rounds of discussion. Is there further discussion?
No.
All right, Linda, vote.
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Soren,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Christine is a no. Are you okay? Do you need
Yeah.
anything?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
It's just been a long time we've been sitting.
I know, we're almost through this. So next is the budget calendar. Is there a motion on the floor for the budget calendar?
I'll make the motion to accept the budget calendar.
Motion to accept the budget calendar as presented.
Yeah, I'll second.
Ryan seconds. Any discussion?
Nope.
All right, Linda,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Soren,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Christina's a yes. Budget committee members.
You can't really do that. We don't have them all.
Well,
You can approve them as they are pending that we get verification. If there's an opening, we will definitely bring it back to you with some recommendations for you to consider.
I'll approve the budget committee members. Make a motion.
can I make a second and add somebody?
Yeah.
Naomi Shadwick would like to be a part of our budget committee, either as a member or as somebody that provides feedback. So I'd like to include her on that list of somebody that's able to be a part of that budget committee.
I think that's a great idea. She's got a clear understanding of that.
Quick question, Ray, does the budget committee have to be balanced? 5 board members and 5 budget committee members?
It doesn't, if you don't have to have, if you can't find a film, you have to prove that you actually went out to find that film. And you should give a good effort.
So we don't want a 6-5
Oh, no, it has to be 5-5.
It has to be 5-5.
Oh, okay.
But she wouldn't be appointed as a member. My apologies. She would be allowed to give feedback though.
That's public comment.
Yeah, public comment. is
So they're
any
allowed
public.
to give public comment the entire time?
They're allowed to always come to the meeting, but all budget meetings are open to the public, and there's always public feedback.
We'll just say we have, then we'll just let the board know that Naomi is willing to serve on this budget committee if we do not find additional, if people do. fill
I
out. So
wasn't able
I'll-
to hear that whole conversation. I'll just trust you guys.
So I will second Deb's motion to approve the budget committee's appointees.
No
Oh,
discussion
sorry.
from me.
Is there discussion?
No discussion from me.
All right, Linda, do you have a vote?
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Soren,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Christine's a yes. Why are we moving the grant application?
Sarah Littlefield was gonna present and she was very ill and we didn't get the grant application MOU in the board packet.
Okay.
So we'll just bring it to the next board meeting.
Okay, so we'll move item E to March 9th.
Yeah.
Approval of the communications plan.
I'll make a motion to approve the communications plan.
All right, Ryan motions to
A
approve the
second.
communications plan. Linda seconds. Any discussion? All right, we'll go for a vote. Linda,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Soren,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Christine is a yes. All right, approval of GMPs.
Brian, do you want to make this one or you want me to do it? You're the contractor guy.
Do you want me to do it since I wrote it down?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I will approve. Hold on, I'm so sorry. I need to pull up the other document. I would like to motion to approve AI document A33 for the main power upgrade and AIA A133 panel room upgrade. Tentative provisions that are to be discussed. And that the expenditures listed in AI or A111 are not to exceed the listed amount and to approve the scope of work in the documents.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
No.
Real quick, if I got that right. It actually is 15,000 less than what was on this one. So that's a start.
It's a start.
Start being less.
It's a start. Yes.
Yeah, the one was a little higher, but then the other one was quite a bit lower, so.
Yeah.
And I think.
And then they made the claim that if it changes, it'll only change lower.
Right.
Yeah, so I have to take them at their word
Yeah,
for
this
it.
is the GMP, so guaranteed maximum
Maximum.
price.
Linda, do you have any questions or discussion?
No, it's okay.
Okay, so I just will clarify, well, I'll just make sure, my discussion will be, the motion is, my motion is to approve both the main power and the panel. No scope of work change, and the financials cannot exceed what's listed on the document. So that's my opinion. That's, and I appreciate what the giggies are doing for us.
Is the language in there? So it's the change of fund and language?
No exceeding the fund, and then we're approving the scope of work is in the motion. Yes. All right.
And I second.
Yep. Linda, do you have a vote?
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Soren,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Christine is a yes. All right, and then our final approval is the approval to resolution 2306 as presented by our business manager earlier.
Resolution 23.
I think it's actually,
Oh, it's the appropriations fund.
it's the supplementary budget.
Supplementary
Yes.
budget.
So I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 23-6, resolution to adopt supplementary budgets.
I will second. There's a motion and there's a second. Is there any discussion?
No.
Linda? Do you have any discussion?
No discussion. Are we voting now?
Is there any discussion?
I'm
Okay, go
sorry,
ahead
I'm
and vote, Linda.
tired.
Go, no, you're fine. Go ahead and vote.
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Soren,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Christina's a yes. Okay, we are to the point of the evening where we will go into executive session.
Can we take 5?
Yes, we're gonna go into, we'll recess the board from 22:28 to 22:35, and we'll go into an executive session at 22:35.
Okay.
So Christine, are you
I'm gonna
going
call
to
you.
call me?
I'm gonna
Yeah.
call you.
Okay.
Yes.
My garbage. It's in my pocket.
I thought it was
It's
a
so
computer.
annoying. I'm like, why is
Sorry, I
it
think I said
in my pocket?
It's
Can
a tissue
we-
that we could wash. I have those all the time.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I got to say, not putting my shoes on because my feet are.
Oh, is Nathan pausing us and everything? All right, we exited executive session at 23:23. We're back in open session at 23:24, and we are going to adjourn this evening at 23:24. Have a good evening, everybody. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting is March 9th. Have a great evening. Thank you. Bye. Bye, Linda.
Bye, Linda.